Hello, everybody. Welcome. It is time for another episode of Citizen Central. Now, we've had a couple of these shows already. We're on episode 8 now, and it's usually like a monthly podcast I like to do with a few of the other creators from around the community where we talk about sort of the bigger topics in Star Citizen. And the last couple of times we've done this, we've had some audio problems. So, what I'm hoping today is that when these people start to talk, everybody who's in the live stream can hear them, because if that is not the way things go, I might break something. Now, I'd like to introduce my guests today, and I really hope everyone says they can hear them. AstroPub, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming. Who are you, and what do you do?
My name is Paul Berserker One Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the Astro Pub, and your professor on the Astro Historian. I do mostly Star Citizen content. I have been doing so. I just discovered today it's been like 7 years, 8 years since I've started doing Star Citizen content. The Astro Pubs, I've been doing stuff as the Astro Pub for 6 since 2016. Or no, not 6. How long is that? That's a long time. I can't do math.
Too long, man.
Too long. So yeah, that's me. I do gameplay content, news content, and lore content. I'm probably most well known for my lore content and for the Captain's Table podcast, which is one of the longer running podcasts now in Star Citizen. So yeah, that's me.
Cool. BusterTheDestroyer, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I got here a little earlier than normal to work today so I could join all y'all. So it's pretty awesome.
Thank you. Is that your office?
Yeah, this is this live streaming studio at work.
Now,
which
I'm
is
sorry.
basically my office.
Now that I have asked that, I do have to ask, AstroPub, is that your office?
Yes, this is my office. Yeah, it's great. It's pyro. Neighbors suck.
He's living in the future.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you got some defenses for yourself.
I just said I remember just learning to fly. Hellos and kisses. Hellos being you pass by somebody maybe within 20, 30 meters. A kiss being you pass by him within probably less than a meter.
So when you guys used to play, do you remember there being better missions or worse missions than we have now?
We had 4. We had 4.
We have 4.
We had 2, and one of them had 5 variants.
And there was Tessa Bannister.
That was Tessa, yeah.
Yeah, you talked to her. She's so nice.
So it wasn't that you were going into your MobiGlass and getting a list of missions, you were taking them from a specific place?
No, you had to go to a location and then you would get the mission. But you'd have to get to the mission itself.
When you would, I'm pretty sure when you would press B for Quantum, just everything would be available and you would just go there.
Yeah.
So there wasn't as much that you could fly to, obviously, but so you would just go to the Comare and then Tessa would give you a mission.
I remember that. The thing that actually sparked my whole thought of doing this was Tessa Bannister. A couple weeks ago, they mentioned her on SCL, and I realized like we had a better narrative set of missions back then. I mean, maybe not anymore, but I feel like what we had back then with the Tessa Bannister missions was a little bit more gripping than a lot of the other missions that we have now. And so I was wondering,
think
like,
it's because they unravel mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, is there going to be another big change with 4.0 where we might lose some sort of mission set or something that might have been meant to work with the old version and no longer with the new one?
All right, so the concept was that the issue was the difference between 2.6 and 3.0 was a fundamental change in how the game worked and in terms of how it was built. So at least according to CIG, they had to completely rewrite the mission system for that change. And the change is that change would be more fundamental, between 3.17 and 3.18 is more of that kind of change because of how the PES system. So I hope we don't have to see that with 4.0 because 4.0, as far as I understand, is just going to be server meshing. Maybe we don't know at this point. But the fundamental change that'll happen, if it does happen, will be around the dynamic mission system. And I think that's the more question of when that comes in, if we're going to see those sorts of mission changes. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much in agreement with you there in terms of missions. Like the difference between 2.6 and 3.0 are insanely huge than from 318, 319, 320, 320, however many patches we'll have before 4.0.
Yeah.
They won't be as wildly different. Like all the missions that we have will still be there. They'll add more with whatever's in Pyro, and I just think the similarities are outside of the game instead of in the game. Is how I would look at it. Citizencon 2016 drops planets. Oh my god, everything is going to be so great, and everyone's really hyped, and then nothing for a year. I mean, we're basically living in that right now, right? Pyro's been teased for 15 years now, and it's everyone's just kind of just waiting to see for it to happen, and it's not really but I don't think the game that we're playing will fundamentally change as much as it did between 2.6 and 3.0. But the outside backer perspective or experience is very similar to that 2017 drought, waiting for the game.
At least we still. I remember, what was that, 20? Yeah, it was like the entirety of 2017 was 2.6, right? Or 2.6.3 or something like that. We wouldn't even get, like, we were basically obsessing over the burn down, I think it was called. The bugs that they had.
That's coming back, apparently, is what Jared. I asked Jared about that on Twitter, and he said it's coming back, and I had flashbacks. I had PTSD flashbacks from that. I'm like, I don't want to see the burn down come back. Please no.
It's what this road to 4.0 content is their version of burn down, I think.
Well, that's what I thought at first, but Jared said there's apparently going to do a burn down as well, starting in like the summer, hopefully.
Huh.
Gross.
Yeah.
For 4.0?
Yeah.
I don't even want to know what they have to deal with for 4.0. Like,
well, I'll tell you where 3.0 and 4.0 are real serious right now, and it kind of goes back to SaltEMike's point about it being outside the game similarities. Is I remember, this was the first time I watched Citizencon ever, was when they were talking about 3.0 at Citizencon that one year. And what's similar about 3.0 and 4.0 is content in those patches was shown to us a while back, and we're still waiting like over a year or two later. Like just like 3.0, and no hate. Like, no, it was just, I remember at the time just being like, I didn't know much about Star Citizen, and being like, wasn't that 3.0 patch supposed to be in? Why is that still not in yet? I don't understand.
I remember I wasn't really that into Star Citizen until I think I want to say like late 2016. So I came on like the tail end of the wait for 3.0, and I remember that last year still was just yeah, that wasn't fun. For those who are wondering, by the way,
they dropped Star Marine, At least we had Star Marine.
Yeah. For those who are wondering, the burn down was CIG basically taking track of all of the major bugs that were blocking them from dropping the 3.0 patch and giving them a status on it was like a bar graph or something that they would put. Well, you guys probably remember it better. What was the burn down?
They did a weekly inside Star Citizen. Basically, it was around the verse, but it was going to each studio and saying what they were working on to get 3.0 live.
So we got to see like the go no go meetings, and they would say like what's still wrong and that kind of stuff, and you'd have like Chris Roberts and teams looking at like, well, what's going on? Why is this happening? I think that was the famous quote where it's like, yeah, we know it's broken. No shit.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
That was that quote was from that,
Yeah, that one is bad. That was I didn't Oof. So Buster, you mentioned Citizencon, and I think that's actually a pretty good topic to talk about at the same time as 3.0 is where we are with 4.0. You guys remember what was going on with Citizencon back then, in 2016.
I just remember. I just
I
remember.
was 2017.
I just remember a Citizencon with a lot of German folk being real excited. That's the earliest Citizencon I remember watching.
I've seen it. I've seen that Citizencon far too many times at this point. It hurts so much. The same amount every time.
And they're all standing up too. Like there was no chairs. Chris Roberts.
Mike, how do you remember it?
Oh, farming. Who would have known farming so excited? Coming in 3.3.
He pulled up a picture. You pulled up a picture, didn't you?
I'm trying to grab it right now.
Oh, what? Oh my
This,
goodness.
wait. This was the one in LA. The last time was in LA, right?
Yeah. Yep.
This is the one that you and I went to.
He
That
puts
was
it-
Yeah.
they were there live.
Somebody's
Yeah.
asking if that's the one that Bad News Baron asked his girlfriend to get engaged. I
No, that
believe-
was
no,
2018.
yeah, that
was
was
2018.
that was in Austin. Yeah, I remember that because
Yeah.
that was like my first year of true streaming.
Yeah, that was.
There she is.
That was
Also, the
The-
Beta
the
Bergman
roadmap.
was coming.
right.
Did you know
Yes.
that?
And then there was like it was going to be 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and then 4.0. I think.
No, they didn't even have 4.0. I don't think. I think 4.0 was labeled as like beta or something like that. There was no 4.0 listed as far as I
Yeah,
remember. There
3.3
may have
was the
been
last thing, and then they talked about Squadron 42.
42. Yeah.
So
Oh my
that's
goodness.
how about we how about we compare how the
This is-
CitizenCon is now compared to that.
Better
All right,
lighting.
You want me to tell you how bad it was in 2016? Because Mike will remember this. They delayed us from entering the building for like an hour, and it was one of the hotter days in October. So it was like over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We were just stuck outside waiting for them to let us in. We found out later that they like canceled a planned Squadron 42 like playthrough that they were going to do in an hour before the event went live. So they had nothing. So we
They
had
just delayed y'all.
yes. So
I would
they
have had like a hot dog stand on the ready, and been
Oh, yeah.
like, just feed them for a while and keep them distracted with the hot
Oh.
dogs.
it was even worse because we got a 30-minute expose on Spectrum. On
Yep.
what
Yep.
Spectrum was going to be.
That was
And
the
it was
replacement.
just
Everyone was just
Yeah.
looking at each other like, what is happening?
what is this?
That's funny. See, I didn't have that context. I didn't
Yeah.
know that all happened. I thought that Spectrum thing was planned.
No, it was, and the way they pitched it was basically it's Discord, but for the game.
Yeah.
It's-
Oh my
And everyone
goodness.
was like,
Yay!
okay. But guess what? They also released the concept of the Polaris there. Are you guys
Mhm.
enjoying that ship? It's
Yeah.
going great.
Yeah, that was yeah. So that
Yeah.
that is actually the way they introduced that felt really weird. I did like a CitizenCon video last year where I went back through all of the CitizenCons and I was just going through them over and over again, and that was one of the parts that really stuck out to me. It's like, why introduce that ship right now? Like it was at some weird point in the show, and it felt really off. You can definitely tell that they
Yeah.
learned a lot.
I feel
Yeah,
like
tw-
I feel like
26
early just real quick to add to that. Like with Citizen Cons back then, I feel like sometimes like release like it's almost like they had like they would have things like that, like they didn't have things as much to talk about, or they had like all this pressure from the backers like usual. And maybe they like release these big ships or announce these big ships like the Polaris at some of these cons because they want like that thing, they want at least one thing for people to get like, oh yeah, that ship looks cool. You know what I mean? I can't think of, a more
26
logical reason than that.
Yeah, 2016 was just a bad year in general for Star Citizen.
was
2016,
the-
2017.
That was
Yeah.
the everything that comes all the negative, like really, really negative
Yeah.
opinions that are held over CIG's head for all these years
They originate there.
came from this period, this
Yes.
slide, things like these. Chris got up there, they were cocky, they were
Oh, yeah.
they were, on top
They
of the
made
world
faux
at this moment.
Yeah. They made faux pas.
Yeah, this is everybody will not let this die. for
Nope.
them.
And
No matter,
this was also
no matter
the
how much better they are now,
Yeah.
this is what they'll always go back to.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah, it's
2016
hard
the
to-
year of the Christmas special too?
yes, it
Yes.
was.
the-
I'm
The last
so
Christmas
happy I wasn't
special.
part of that.
wait,
Yeah.
wait.
I was part of the good one.
The
It's a
Christmas
terrible-
special was where
Nobody
people
tell 'em.
expected Squadron 42 stuff, right?
No, it was worse. It was
No.
worse.
It was
If-
just
so-
So bad.
Oh,
if
you don't
so-
know about
so
this the Christmas live stream, right, Tomato?
Alright.
Okay.
I
Just-
do this as tradition.
Okay.
Yes.
I watched the 2016 holiday live special just like anyone who is a Star Wars fan needs to watch the Star Wars holiday special, because to humble yourself about your fandom, because this is it is one of the few videos that CIG has removed from
They've
their
scrubbed.
official. They scrubbed it from their official YouTube. It is completely gone. You can only find it in re-uploads.
Yeah.
Because-
And
Oh no, what was it? Come on.
Oh, it
just
was a
bad.
disaster.
It was
a
just a bad live
disaster.
stream. It was a bad
Yeah.
live stream. It was clearly
I
like
think I remember
it-
this.
it
Was
was
it
like an
super delayed?
early. No,
It
No.
was
I'm-
so
no.
broken.
It was no. It's literally
But we
just
got
the live
this.
stream is just bad. Like
Oh
it's,
yeah, that picture.
it's awkward. It's so awkward. It's like they were trying to do a thing and not all the parts and pieces worked the way they needed. You
So
know,
this
and
was
not
just your general CIG kind of skit, putting on, and interacting with the community. It's just they just didn't do
yeah.
a very
It
good
was
job with
supposed to be
It
a
was
fun, cute thing,
worse.
and it with some information, but it just the fun, cute just was like awkward and very strange.
Okay. I feel like
what I would suggest, you need to watch this with your community at some point. Like sit down on this live stream
That's
and
funny.
watch it with your friend.
all right. I'll have to get a
I
link.
think relying on some of the devs to be a bit more personable on camera, it was like leaning on them more than like they do now, because now like it's really guided for the way it's structured, all the content. It's really guided where somebody on the content team really guides them. I think at the time the content team wasn't that big.
Hmm.
I think it was just like maybe Jared and like two or
Oh,
three
man,
guys.
they took it off the YouTube channel. Yeah, we'll definitely give that
Yeah.
a watch sometime soon.
Anyway,
I have the
this is-
link right here if anyone
Linked in the show notes, guys.
It's this
get
is
your
this is
eggnog
also
out.
this was also the year of the sandworm. So like this is literally the year
Oh my
that like
god,
everyone
2016 was
everyone
such a
uses
bad
to
year.
hold over CIG will beat CIG into a bludgeon until they finally like catch up with
Yep.
all these goals. This was
CIG,
their
we're
worst
sorry
year.
we brought all this
that
up,
was
but
their
not sorry.
that was their
No,
growing
no.
up phase.
No, they
This
have
Yes,
to
it was very much a
never
growing
forget this.
pains year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like no matter what they do, I think they're going to do some great things with this game, but it's always going to be very obvious the pained period of development that this game had, and I think that's like
Mhm.
it's kind of useful, you know. I mean, if I was going to start a game company, I would want to see somebody else try to do this first, so I could be like, nah, I'll avoid that. I'm going to hire somebody for that.
Sometimes
But
I
this
just
is-
think of Star Citizen as a prepubescent girl who probably started her cycle way too early and she doesn't know what's going on, and she's scared.
Let's go Star Atlas. Here we go.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another conversation.
Well,
But-
maybe
but
they'll learn.
yeah.
Well,
I was going to
that's-
say the last thing to say is for people who don't know, I would say between and on Mike's point, between 2016 and the end, like right before Citizencon 2018, was the year where Chris had to check his ego into like to humble himself a little bit, to realize that like he was maybe a little bit too big for his britches, because the 2018 was the year that he tried to make it a pay-per-view event. Citizencon make it a pay-per-view event. and that
That's
was-
right.
Gosh.
Wait,
s-
Was
They
that
tried to
2017?
No, that was
No,
2018.
it was
'Cause
2018.
I
Was it
nearly
really?
canceled my attendance. Yes, I nearly canceled my attendance to go because of how bad it was.
And then the
Why?
live stream
Like-
was screwing up anyway.
Yeah,
The paid live stream that you had to pay to watch, that they just were like, screw it, and they had to throw
that might
it
have
up
been
on Twitch.
2017. That may have been 2017,
I
but it was
think
it was in that
2017, because
period.
2018 I think went okay. That was
All
when
of
they-
you
I-
guys, everybody was at CitizenCon except for me. I was
Mhm.
live
I
streaming.
wasn't.
I was live streaming it on Twitch. I had 3,000 viewers, and because I was the only one streaming it on Twitch.
Yeah.
And then CIG went live, and then it was like rip. That was crazy.
That,
I was
yeah.
streaming it too that day, so you weren't the only one.
Okay. You know what I
No,
mean?
but
It's-
you
they
had way
weren't.
more community. I had just started
Yeah.
streaming anyway, so
People,
Yeah.
you know, you kiddos these days don't know how we had it back then. And God, that's so bad. Like, I can't believe they did
Mhm.
that, and then the whole industry piled on them for that. That was so far
Oh,
outside of
yeah.
the Star Citizen circle. Like, that was one of those kind of everybody gets to know about this thing.
Well, it was also no matter how you felt about Star Citizen, whether you were somebody who was critical of Star Citizen or Super White Knight, it seemed like the entire community was just like, no,
Bad take. Yeah.
this
L's
is
take.
this is terrible.
Yeah.
And Chris almost immediately reversed course because everyone was like, this is not, you're not BlizzCon.
Yeah.
You don't even have a game released. And like,
yeah.
just-
Like get
just
a
calm
couple
down.
get a MMO released and Squadron, and then maybe we can come
Yeah,
back
because
with
I
that
mean,
energy.
maybe we could do this.
people were already like, why is there a convention for a game that's not released? And then you go and charge for the stream. Yeah, that was not.
I
that
feel
was
like
not
the
good.
to me, like I have never physically been to a Citizencon, but for me, like Citizencon is supposed to be for the community and about the community.
Yeah.
So any Citizencon that's like really focused on the community, like 2018, I actually really enjoyed because they went around and like checked out people's booths in between panels. And that was the year they had 2 streams, if I'm correct. Like they had 2 live streams going on because they had 2 panel rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had them going at the same time. So they were, and I don't know if they'd done that before, but
That's
I
what
just
they tried
remember
to
that.
charge for.
Yes.
The second, they were trying to
and-
charge for the second panel as well.
yeah. And then that didn't work out because their website could not handle like tens of thousands of people trying to watch the same live stream.
Yeah. So this all kind of goes back to community, or not community, sorry, communication, and how they were doing at it at the time then. So back then they actually had more community shows. I know big favorite people miss is Bug Smashers, but they also had some other stuff and things were named differently. But how do you think the communication was back in lead up to 3.0 compared to now?
I barely
is that
paid
worse
attention
now
to
or
it,
worse then?
to be honest.
I'll jump on this. It was very different, and this goes for like the way, not just the way they made content, but the way other content creators make content. Is the game didn't exist, right?
Yeah.
So during the wait for 3.0, it was all about, oh, what's your favorite ship? What kind of profession are you going to do? Like that was most of the conversations. Those were the things that people were interested in. And if you really want to compare it to like the last like year that we've had of content, I think like Jared's really stepped up the game in some aspects and maybe fallen off a little bit in others. But for the most part, I think the focus on the game is way more like granular now, and this is how you're going to play the game. These are little tweaks and changes that we're making, and everything was more imaginary back then in comparison to what we have now. And it was weird. It was more game focused and less dev focused than it is now. I think, in my opinion, where the content isn't as good as it was back then is now it's how did you get into game development? And like it's a lot of conversations about that, but like, bro, what the hell is Jared supposed to do? We've had 318 in the P2 for 6 months, like
He's out of things to show off.
Exactly. We're out of things to do. He's out of things to do. So like, yeah, don't blame him on that. I think the good stuff that we get, like when they're focused on the game, it is way better now than it was then because it's real. It exists.
Yeah.
It was.
I remember distinctly that, especially when I was starting to like chop up around the verse episodes for B-roll, I remember that all of the stuff that was going on in like 2017 in terms of around the verse was so filled with B-roll. They had so much stuff to talk about because there was so much being held back that they just kept talking about it. And then we hit like 2018, 2019. I remember people were like, the around the verses went from like 40 minutes down to 10 minutes. And people were like, what happened to all the content? It was crazy how much it changed.
Yeah, I mean that's such a good point. Go ahead, Astro. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I was actually going to jump onto that. Is that like,
Yeah.
people forget that back then we had 40 minutes, an hour long B-roll or like things, but we also know that CIG afterwards said it killed us. It was a lot of developers talking, and it took a lot of their time and effort to make 40, because anyone who's made a video longer than 10 minutes can tell you it takes a very long time if you're editing things together and trying to put things in place. And what I remember distinctly was it was a lot of developers talking, not a lot of like necessarily videos. It was just a lot of developers talking.
And it was like it was like the office leads, right?
Yeah. So while it was nice to hear them talking, it's like where we got the Tonk from, was like, you know, the guy who was developing
There's
the Nova Tank. Yeah. It was just talking. It was basically stuff you could do if you read it, you know, sort of thing. And I think that's the reason why people liked it, is because you could watch it and get 40 minutes and get effectively what we have now with like the monthly reports, with the progress trackers, all of those things. It was basically all of that in a video every week. And a lot of people liked that because I could just turn on this video and watch everything all the way through. But you didn't really get any, like, I think people have a lot of nostalgia goggles with that thing, where it's like really a lot of it was just updates on things that most people didn't care about. So
and
sorry about that. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add to this discussion about the content. I feel like the base, because I had seen some around the verses back in the day, right? I had, before I even backed Star Citizen, I had people in my life that were interested in it, and of course I learned about it vicariously through them a lot. And sometimes I watched this stuff, and yeah, it was a lot. And this is something I'll add to. I have it on good authority. Speaking of Citizencons earlier, a friend of mine was one of the volunteers at Citizencon in like 2019, or was it Manchester? And so apparently one of his jobs during the course of those few days before Citizencon, during setup, is they were like building all that stuff out, right? Like all the little booth spaces and things. But you remember they did that show, somebody interviewed Chris Roberts for that British show about technology. And it was like a 6-minute segment. I forget the name of the show. Somebody in the chats probably remembers. And basically it's some show in Britain about technology and things like that, and they just talked about Star Citizen. They interviewed Chris Roberts. Apparently for a 6-minute segment, Chris Roberts spoke to these interviewers for 5 hours, and my friend was the one whose job it was that day to tell everybody to stop doing stuff when he was walking by with cameras. Like, he had to go around and say, guys, don't use your drill guns for a while. And he also had to, like, there are people coming by where the convention was. He was having to kind of like shoo them away from the windows because like they didn't want him in the shot or something. And so apparently, and the point I'm trying to make here is Chris Roberts is a very long-winded guy. And so I've made this extrapolation before that perhaps that one of the reasons that Around the Verse and things like that got shortened, because probably they were trying to pull Chris Roberts out of doing so much video. Like, he would probably go on and on and on for a while, and it's a lot to edit when you're trying to get it down so small. Like, you know, you're trying to get it within like a certain range of time.
I think we've
I'm
all.
not like,
I think we've all.
I'm
seen
not
that.
trying to. Yeah, I'm not trying to like say this is how he is. I'm not trying to make assumptions based, but I feel like I have multiple people that have told me that have met him in person. Like, he's super talkative. He loves to talk about the game, yada, yada, yada. So I think there is like this desire to be on camera and talk from him. But there's also this realization from probably the content team and other people in the company that, like, if we put him in front of a camera, it's hard to get him away from being away from it.
And he's going to say something regrettable.
There it is. I was just about to make that point. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a difference between then and now. Chris was, I think, a lot more involved in the public eye back then.
Yeah.
I
think to some people that's a detriment. That
Right.
isn't there anymore.
Very strong opinions on both sides of that. I could see.
I think
often.
at the end of the day, it's hard to work around with somebody who when you're trying to get a 10-minute show and he's like recording like over an hour of footage.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot to look through, you know.
Let's talk about some more gameplay. So the game in 2.6 it just felt different the way that it ran. I think the way that it played. Were there any times, or was there anything before 3.0 that you thought was better in terms of gameplay than after? I'd
Mission
like to
givers?
start off. I'd like to start something off actually.
Go ahead.
I really liked the Cryastro repair station. I liked how the space
Yeah.
stations were specialized like that.
Damn you, Crytek.
Apparently, they're coming back. That's what I've heard. Is that
Oh, God, I do-
Cryastro stations are coming back.
That'd be
Oh,
cool.
my
So-
God. They probably have a different name though.
Maybe.
Like
Rest in
Cry.
Freeze.
Or like the fuel yard instead of the Rumble yard.
Litigation Station.
Litigation
Is that really-
station.
Is that really a thing? I didn't know that like part of the lawsuit they can't call it Cryastro Station anymore.
No,
I don't think, no,
they
it's just
petty-
them
I think
going, no, we're
they were
changing
petty.
the name because screw you
Yeah.
guys.
Oh.
If you're gonna
It was
sue
a-
us,
it
we're
was-
gonna.
I think it was
we're
a
not gonna
petty
have you in the game
response.
anymore. Which
Yeah.
to me, that's not really petty. I think of that as well. Fine, you bye.
Yeah.
All right. So
Bye.
what's something else that you guys thought was better gameplay wise before 3.0?
Go ahead,
I mean,
Mike.
for me, it was 3.1. It was mining. I thought it was better when it first came out than it is now, pre 3.19.
The
Pretty
car
much
tool
because it
worked
was-
better.
It was a challenge.
Yeah.
Figured. The car tool all worked better, like in terms
Yeah,
of what way?
it had engines.
Is it
Car
broken
tool's
right now?
sweaty now. No, it's sweaty.
Yeah,
It's good.
It's-
It's if you're like one of the crazy insane pilots, I've seen them use it to insane advantages. But I think you just have to be one of those. Don't take this the wrong way, but one of those psychos that are just so insanely good at this game.
Oh
There's
no,
something I just don't
absolutely.
understand.
I would never
know?
take offense of that statement. Not at all, because I do
Good.
not have the amount of time that I like. I do not have the amount of
Ask-
time that some people do for Star Citizen.
All three of us participated in fight or flight. People
Yes.
know that we're not very good at this
Yeah.
ship combat.
Paul and I, we were the
I-
first team to go down.
Yes.
I didn't
And
even.
I had a successful carry. You know.
Yeah, I was
that
gonna say
about
you
it.
had a ringer. You had a
Yeah.
ringer for sure.
Mike, I thought you did a lot of combat. No.
No.
Hmm,
no.
he's
Before then, I practiced for about 2 hours.
for
the tournament.
I'm not that.
I
far
love
behind
it.
then. Okay.
Not at all.
So the car tool, and now I guess we got the Santaki coming soon, supposedly. But the
Oof,
car tool was
I-
different. The mining was a good one. AstroPub, how about you?
The mission givers. I think that's the reason why people like Tessa, is that Tessa gave personality to the universe. And as a guy who likes lore, who's looking at lore, people will get invested in a game if the characters they're interacting with are interesting and fun. You know, any game like that. And
Yeah.
Tessa was good. Everyone still thinks that the PI mission, which is from 2.0, that they carried over from 2.0, the different branching story options for the PI mission, everyone loves that. I'm hoping CIG learned that that's what people loved about the PI mission, and not people like investigation. It's like, no, they want branching storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Tessa was a personality. She had character. People enjoyed that. Even Miles Eckhart, his first initial implementation. Rock Mommy from Nyx. I always forget Recco Battaglia.
Yeah.
They all had personality, and when they were working, they were great. The problem is they kept breaking, and so eventually CIG just stopped fixing them.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the big loss from 2.0
Until
to 3.0.
now.
Hopefully,
They started talking about them. Yeah.
That was one of my biggest takeaways from the lore SCL was that
Yeah.
they have a guy. I know he's a
Jeremy.
story. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
the story guy, but it's starting. Clearly, there's some initiative there, right?
Yeah.
No,
And
as far as I can tell, Jeremy's job is to write the missions for the PU. That's his sole
Hell
job
yeah.
is PU.
Which
So-
is
Exciting.
which is nice, and they mentioned that in the monthly report, so that's cool to hear. Because the missions are they're so basic, and I understand why. I mean, it makes sense. You just start to fill them up with the more easy and simple missions, but we're just so completely lacking of the narrative ones. And like you said, they aren't doing the mission givers. They haven't been. I was hoping they were waiting for server meshing, waiting for servers to be running a little bit better. And I'm praying that we get to that point and we don't see them continue to push it off and put it in the backlog. Let's talk about the space change. Actually, no. First, I want to talk about what you guys think is going to change fundamentally in 4.0. So a lot of people, and I think because CIG has talked a lot about it, associate 4.0 with Pyro. And like, yes, there's a big space, just like when we went from 2.6 to 3.0, they added new space. But do you think there's going to be anything else that actually changes along with that besides, the things that they keep saying are on the road to 4.0?
Now,
honestly-
are you saying
Okay.
on release of 4.0, like the day of?
No.
Or
Let's say
point?
like within
Okay.
like the first year of 4.0. So with 3.0, we got decent amount of updates in that first year that really solidified where we were going. Let's talk about that with 4.0.
Go ahead, Buster. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're just fine. I was just going to say that I think one of the things that's really going to shift is more of the people playing it. I think because of the new open space, there's going to be a lot more like the traffic is going to change a lot, right? I mean, I'm wondering how that's going to play out. How is the traffic going to shift gameplay overall, emergent gameplay overall? Like, are there going to be less people in Stanton? Is it going to be easier for a miner to get around in Stanton and go mine or salvage or whatever? Or is it going to be harder because of this, that, and this? Or is Pyro going to create or are people really going to stay out of Pyro like once they get a gander at it? I think the not necessarily the trade routes, but just the almost like the movement of the players is going to shift naturally because of the added place, but also how's it going to influence the way they play because of more people maybe that are into PvP being absent from Stanton.
That actually makes me wonder, do you guys remember kind of how was the reaction when they brought in, so they brought in 3.0, and I don't think they added a planet until 3.35, but let's say before that, when they just brought in that initial burst of new moons, how long did that excitement last? Do you guys remember people continuously going to the moons, or did people get kind of over it pretty quickly?
I'll tell you, 3.5 for me was about the female model. I could give a shit about the moons.
Mhm.
I think at that time, like going back to what I was saying before, is it was still everybody was still imagining what they were gonna do. It was still all about we're still trying to figure out what the game even was, right? And what we were gonna do and how we were gonna do it. And that was always the conversation. The game was always just like, I'm just kind of playing in the background. You just redid now at 3.0 launch, I mean, everybody was just crashing nonstop for
Right,
Yep.
that was terrible.
I mean,
Timers.
that continued on for quite a while.
That's right.
Until we got
I forgot
OCS
about that.
almost. Like, it was just
I don't
not
believe the
fun.
game was stable until 3.7.
Yeah.
Stable to a point where 30Ks were not incredibly detrimental to a gameplay session.
Yeah.
Right. So
I was,
nobody was playing the game like the way they do now.
Right.
You start a session and you play, and you can go for a period of time that is a long play session. Like, CR's talked about it in videos and his letters and stuff, right? Like, people are also playing long playing sessions. It's just different now. In comparison to then, it was always just like it was just everything was just imaginary at that point.
Yep.
Hey, I think Mike's not being heard. I think.
no, he's good. He's good.
Okay.
He's good.
Just making sure.
The one thing I remember is there was a lot of screenshots. The joke of Star Citizen being a screenshot simulator came from the 3.0 era, the very early 3.0 era, because we had because that was really because the FPS was the FPS was garbage. Like,
oh my
you got
god, yeah.
like you think FPS is bad now. I've heard people like, I get 30 FPS, I'm bad, it's bad, and maybe I'm just
So
like
bad, then.
a salty old man now, and I'm just be like, you don't understand what it was like.
No,
It was
Yeah,
like
to constantly get less than 10 frames for like
12
6
was
months.
good.
Yeah.
12 was good. Like 20
Up
was
until
amazing.
we got client side OCS, it was I remember just reliably getting single digit frames. It was so bad.
And that's and that's why I think like Mike's right when it comes to like still a lot of like what will this game become, because the game existed but no one played the game, not like a game. They played it more like as an interesting concept where they'll explore the sandbox a little bit.
Exactly. It was something like, whoa, this is really cool. I'm really excited to try this one day. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be. And now you have med runners and
Mhm.
our version of the fuel rats right now. Like people are legitimately playing the game in a real way. And back then, none of that existed, right? It
No.
it was
Yeah.
Mhm.
it was so different.
Ironically, I think the first real time this game started kicking off as a game was the Jumptown Wars during
Oh my God.
that era.
The best
and
time of all time. Oof.
yes, but that was well after. That was a year or two after the launch
Yeah.
of 3.0. I think it was like
Yeah.
3
That was like 3.8, right? 3.9.
5 3.7. Yeah, it
Oh,
was
is it that early?
yeah, well, it was after it was 3.8. Then I remember there was a patch, and I think Mike's right on this one. It was like 3.7. It was like 3.7.1, where suddenly
So stable.
yeah,
The
the
best
3K
patch.
stopped
So stable.
happening. We got 30 FPS per game. It was like it was a game suddenly.
Mhm.
And then there was the same patch they allowed
caves.
us to purchase. Yeah, and caves. And they allowed us to purchase that, or a little earlier, they allowed us to purchase ships.
In
So
game, yeah.
in
Yeah,
game,
that was a big change. That was like, up until that point, people were like, "This is literally you have to buy a ship to use it in the game. That's ridiculous. That's
Yeah.
a scam." And
Yeah.
then they finally brought out the ability to buy and rent ships. And
Yeah.
that was a big
Check.
change.
Chat's telling me it's 3.4 or 3.5, but I think if there was an OCS release in like 3.5, I think, and then that helped stabilize the game a little bit. And then you had the jump town, and then 3.7 kind of. I think it was some sort of. It's been an incremental patch cycle, and I do
Right.
remember back then the big difference was, and this was a 2.0 and a 3.0 thing, which was every other patch was good. So like you'd have one patch which would be new content, but it was dog performance, terrible performance.
Yeah.
And then the patch after that, they improved the performance, didn't add anything. And so people would just play the game, the patch after everything was added, because that was when CIG would sit down and actually optimize their code. So
Yep, I remember that. The cycle. You guys remember the picture that would go around on like Reddit, the yearly cycle
Still
of the Star
does.
Citizen community?
Still does.
Yeah.
Still does.
Okay,
The patch
that's there's
cycle,
there's a question.
You are here. Yeah.
So before 3.0, we didn't have the quarterly patches. Did we still have the same kind of cyclical sort of thing going on?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Do
feel
we
like-
have
but
quarterly
kinda,
patches?
Yes and no.
No.
Yes and no.
Come on. All right.
Well,
fine.
right now it's
It's
all that's up
almost-
in the air. 319's coming in May. Just I planned a whole vacation around quarterly patches, and I'm gonna get royally screwed on this one this time.
Yeah, it
this-
is weird that they're putting it in
This
May.
is one of the longest, like quarterly
It
patch
is.
cycles.
It
But the
is
end of the year
longest.
patches are always the ones that struggle into the next year so hard because of Christmas break.
They still
slash
at least put
holiday
it out though.
release.
Yeah,
But
they
they put it out.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
so besides 318, the wait for 318, obviously, we were still getting quarterly patch cycles, and I am still operating under the assumption, and I guess, this is also up for debate as to whether it will change or not, that after 4.0, they're going to try and get back to the quarterly cycle because they hopefully won't have a big tech thing that's making them push the patches back. So, do you guys think that, or rather, let's go back to the original question then. Before 3.0, was there sort of the same quarterly buzz or any sort of way that the
No.
community acted?
It didn't exist.
It didn't exist.
The
We were happy
quarterly
to get what we
patches
got.
came out of the delay.
Right.
The quarterly patches came out of the dismay that the community had for that entire year of nothing.
Do you think
we had maybe patches that would happen infrequently? Now, Arena Commander was different. The Arena Commander patches were fast and hard. They would come in every couple months. We had like 1.0 release. We had 0.8, and then 1.0 released 2 months later, and then 1.1 released like a month or two later, and then 1.2 released a month or two later, and then like 1.3 was right before Citizencon, and that's when they announced 2.0.
When did we
And that
get the
was the
Delta
2.0.
patcher? That was like a big change.
wasn't that with 3.0?
Delta Patch was 3.0. It was 3-0.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was nice. Because I remember I didn't want to play the game before that.
Yeah.
I think it was like every time you updated the game, it downloaded the whole thing all over again or something like that. Yeah, that was
70 gigs or whatever every
Yeah.
single time.
And I imagine that was terrible for them. I think they've commented on that. There
Very
was just
costly.
so much. Yeah, it's a crazy amount of data. Okay, so considering the way that the updates changed then because of how the community was reacting back then, do you guys think they'll make any updates with how they're doing it after 4.0?
I think we're already there. I think we'll probably go back to quarterly-ish, but I think that they're more comfortable now releasing something when it's done and just expect things to be done a little bit quicker. And if it's not, they might do what they're doing now, where it's like, all right, 3.18.1 is actually called 3.19. We'll pull in as many features as we can into that. They did it with 3.15 as well. I think you did a video about this too, Tomato, right? It's just, I
Yeah.
think that we're already there. Like things are there's so much more aware of everything now and have a better handle on the way they work. And now things are more, even though things don't feel like they're on rails and everything's going great, in comparison, they're just a proper company now. It feels like.
Yeah.
As much as people complain about the year of 3.17, I again, old curmudgeon thing. Like it's not like 2.6.3. It was not like 3.6.3 because 2.6.3 was we got 2.6.3 and that was it. We had, and it was like Star Marine, which is the only thing they had that they added in 2.6.3. That was all we got for an entire year.
Yeah.
And like with 3.17, we got some updates. We got new ships. We got, in performance increases. We got those sorts of things. It's just like,
yeah,
we still got content.
It's like with 2.6, they didn't push 2.6 to 3.0, or rather 3.17 didn't go to 3.18 because they literally didn't have another number to use. So they just have to wait for 3.18. But with 2.6, they could have put out another update. They just simply didn't. Like we still got stuff with 3.17, like you said, which made that wait a lot better, because this would have been, oh my gosh, if there was actually no content for a year at this point in Star Citizen's development, that would have been awful.
The whole company isn't making 3.0.
No.
Isn't making 4.0. They're all working on their features that are going to be integrated into a foundation that's already there. Like they might be adding more to the foundation, but 3.0 was, 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of the foundation. Now they're just solidifying it and making it stronger. And I guess more game ready, more ready to make. I hate using the word promise, but in this case, it's sort of proving that they can make the game that they have always said that they were making, right? Where right now we don't have that.
Yeah. So do you guys think the game's going to be fun after 4.0?
Define fun. So. What is fun? As to pull a quote from Chris, what is fun?
I mean, video game fun, not Star Citizen fun.
At some point.
Yeah.
Where's Tony Z?
Right. So that's the elephant in the room for me, honestly, is the economy.
Yeah. Tony Z is in cryo sleep. So when he wakes up, maybe, but I think 3.18 is fun. It's just how long is it going to be fun? Like, I think when you ask, like, is 4.0 going to be fun? Like, is it going to be an MMO at 4? I don't know.
It's hard to tell.
I don't think the game is truly fun until we get that day one MMO experience, which I don't know if we'll ever get in Star Citizen, since everyone starts at different places. But
personally, I just need some more interaction between the different parts of the game. If I'm mining, I want to be able to hand my minerals to a cargo hauler who can sell it to somebody. Or if I'm like,
you can do that now.
Kind of.
It just doesn't mean anything.
You can't go and detach your prospector bag, put it in something, and have that be detected as a box and sell it, can you?
Oh no, I'm sorry. You said hand mining, so I thought you meant like rock mining, hand mining.
Just like running an actual industry and having that matter is something I could do for a while, but I do think that that interconnectivity is still missing. Like we see it a little
The
bit
having
with the
it matter
salvage.
part is where we're
Right.
missing.
Right, which is where the economy comes in.
Somebody in chat named Nono Roboto said, "Fun on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being Mario Kart."
I mean, we got Mario
I
Kart,
think-
duh.
I
They
think
put
the
that in
key
the
is-
game.
Isn't that fun yet? It just you didn't.
I bought an MMO,
Yeah,
you know, and people say, "No, you pledged." Shut up! I bought a game,
No,
and
you bought a
and that's
game.
what I'm waiting for.
That's what the governments of the world say. So I agree with the governments of the world at that point. If it's legally, you purchased the game.
You government shill.
Because you got to pay taxes on it. You don't pay taxes on donations. So,
Lordy.
but what was I going to say? Oh, if 4.0, because I was talking with a couple other creators and people who are outside the community who have jumped in to play Star Citizen before, and almost all of them have said the same thing, which is Star Citizen needs a reason for you to log on and play and continue to play.
Yeah.
Like a reason to do something, be it an award system or just a really solid like mission experience where you feel like you go boom, 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 you're having fun, you're going forward, maybe some slight variety, but something to keep you going rather than
Incentivize
just
you.
other than ships, because the ships are nice, but unless you're doing like a 0 to hero run or if you're a brand new player, it's really not, ships really aren't really the goals that a lot of people think. Like
ships provide the same experience for the most part outside of specialized ships like salvage mining ships as any other one. You fly to a place, you do a mission, you shoot some guns. It's basically the same experience with a different look on the inside. They enhance the gameplay, but they don't make.
But you need gameplay.
Yeah.
You need gameplay to enhance in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's
And
nothing really
4.0,
drawing you back.
No. And I think 4.0 has the potential to do that, especially if we're talking the 4.0, like to say the first year of 4.0's release.
Yeah.
Because one of the major things they want to add that Chris has talked about, and I've heard many mentions before, is the new NPC behaviors. And those behaviors, if you can sit through in that 2 hours of Citizencon of Chris and the Squadron 2 lead rambling for 2 hours.
Oh man.
I
remember watching that live and having such a hard time focusing.
I think after the fact, it's not as bad, but when you've already watched an hour and a half, to hear 2 hours of rambling is so hard to do.
Yeah, it's like it's overwhelming.
So if they can get that in, I think that will add at least enough of a variety for people to be like, oh, I'm going to go down and do this FPS mission. I have to be careful. I have to do things. The Tarkov experience a little bit, where you're going in, you're looting, and you might run into a scav or you might run into another player. Those sorts of experiences, especially like Pyro, if Pyro's out.
Mm-hmm.
But to say, is it fun? I'm not willing to say that, because I don't think Star Citizen, I don't know if Star Citizen will ever be fun in the way that most people say fun. I think it can be engaging, but engaging isn't like Mario Kart. It's not like COD Warzone or something like that. Engaging is like a survival sim experience or
I don't got any shells to throw in Star Citizen.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay. Last question I want to ask then, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this podcast up. But stick around because we're going to do a little Q&A session with these folks. If you haven't seen it, Mrs. Tomato's been dropping the link in chat if you guys want to ask. A little live Q&A that we'll post as a separate video after. But the last thing I want to talk about is, let's start first, I guess, by talking about what do you guys think the overall, like if you could apply a theme to the 3.x branch of patches. I know that's a really wide amount of patches, but like if you could provide a theme of that period of development of the game, what would you guys say was the core focus of the 3.x patches?
Beauty.
Making things pretty?
Yep.
I would say expanding the sandbox.
I
Okay.
would say, um, hmm, I would say style.
Okay. So it generally, um, Mike and Destroyer, you guys are talking about like the way that they enhance the way the game looks, basically.
It was such a focus, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
like
Gas clouds,
look at
planet
the
tech,
like
that kind of
we're
stuff.
all we just had a conversation of like if the game will be fun or not because it's lacking
Yeah.
so much
Right.
on the gameplay side. But what draws everybody in is like, wow, I really want to play a game in this world. So maybe you could
Mhm.
say in a way like world building, maybe, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Uh-huh.
not lore building,
No.
but like the
AstroPub would
actual
never accept
worlds,
that.
not story building, like the actual worlds. Still
Yeah.
no?
No,
Yeah, like
actually,
the
Okay.
foundation of the
Yeah.
planets and like
For
Yeah,
what they are.
for
exactly.
Yeah.
me, the reason I say style is I totally agree with everything Mike just said. So I think style encompasses that, but style also encompasses like the style of what they're trying to achieve as a company too. Um, to me, style, like what their style is to create their own tech that works for their game that they could make a lot of profit off of one day, selling to other game companies, and of course expanding upon that to continue. But like it's almost like style, the more appropriate word would be like um maybe something more like foundation because but I guess in my mind I was thinking of physical like the way it looks but also the style in which it's presented,
Okay. Yeah, I think they
including the
did.
content like like top down content, the actual building of the game and the game itself and the content. But when I say content I mean like even the way they present to us as a community has made a stylistic change in the last 4 years.
Yeah, they've gotten so much better at presenting themselves.
Well, it's because
Through video
Jared, like,
content, text
it's because
content.
Jared has an iron fist. Like, I've heard multiple people in that company say, they may have certain personal feelings about him, but they always say he's the perfect person for the job he does.
Hmm.
Nobody should be doing that but him.
Mm.
If he left, it would fall apart, I feel like.
They'd have no idea what to do.
I don't
Like,
know. I think, his team would be okay, but they would still have to have a fearless face
Who
man.
would present, right? And
Yeah.
and I think everybody knows Jared puts in endless hours, so who would be willing to do that? You got to
Well,
find
that's his
somebody
own
as
fault.
dedicated. Yeah, that's his own
That's
fault,
his-
but at the same time, like that's the results that we have is because of that, right?
Yeah,
So like who also would be willing to put in that kind of time?
That's
I
true.
don't know too many people.
Yeah. And his knowledge of both the game and the community it's going to be hard to find for somebody who wants to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the obvious second part of this question, if we're talking about kind of what 3.0 did and the 3.x branch of patches, obviously is then not necessarily what you think they're going to do with the 4.x branch of branches. Panch of branches? We're going to go with that. But what do you hope that they do with that? Let's say, like, let's just hypothetically say, God, I'm going to get burned for this. Let's hypothetically say that they have 4.0 to 4.10. What would you want to see them do with those 10 updates?
It's a
10.
proof of concept phase for me now. This is the hey gaming community. You said we couldn't do this, but we can. So the whole thing would be we did get X amount of players into a server. We do have decent FPS. We are able to do a jump point. We did do another system. We are everything that you said we couldn't. We could. Not that I think this is going to happen or know that this is going to happen,
Yeah.
but that is the kind of going into the theme idea of the last one. That would be the theme of 4.0 is like we told you so, I think is their goal here. And I don't know how much it's going to lead into the perfect game yet or whatever, whatever people want. Everyone has the idea of the game in their own head, but I think that's what it would be.
If they kind of, let's say they like nailed all of that stuff, especially the gameplay side of it and all that, but they only expanded to like 3-star systems.
I mean, the reality is that this game lacks gameplay, as we've all
Yeah.
kind of pointed out. So I'm a personal belief that systems don't equal gameplay. There's no Pyro is useless without reputation and other factors, fixing trading and all these other doing multi-crew, all of the factors that would make this game unique and stand on its own as a game. And I think that's really the theme for me for 4.0 would be finding what Star Citizen is. Like, what is Star Citizen as a game, not as an idea, not as the Chris Roberts like Imagine trailer. Like, it's what is Star Citizen? How will it actually nuts and bolts, brass tacks? What is this game? I think that will be the actual answer for is what 4.0 is not trying to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Buster, do you have a...
She got kicked from Discord, so she's trying to get back in, I think.
Yeah, I got kicked earlier.
Happened?
I don't know what happened.
That's weird. Okay. Give Buster a second then. You just got rated by Croncy in the live podcast right now. Thank you so much, buddy.
She's back.
Appreciate you. And we've got Buster back.
Yes.
Buster, can you hear us?
Maybe halfway
Are
back.
we live? All right, we're back via video, at least. Well, we were video. We're she's in the room. Don't know if she can hear yet, but we'll give her a minute.
Sounds like no.
So you guys are both kind of just basically saying they need to get it to a MVP. Is that like beta for you, or no? Not even that far.
No, I think they just have like server meshing is one of those things that a lot of people have said they can never do. And getting X amount of players in a server, so it's just kind of. I'm hoping that when server meshing is here, that it's kind of like, all right, this is the foundation of the game, and we build from here, and we'll just. So that's sort of like, hey, we told you we could do it, we did it, and now we're gonna do it. Is more, and now we're gonna make the game. So it's just a shifting in focus, hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. It's an issue of I hope it's going to be the foundation of things. I know Chris Roberts wants to stand on stage at a Citizencon and be like, there are 10,000 people per server, and then just
mic drop,
mic drop it and walk off. Like, we all want that, but wanting and realities are different. And I think really that's the case with 4.0 is more of a, like, I don't think it's going to be the beta, but it's going to definitely form what the game is going to be in, not just like the game, but the public's eyes. Like, I think 4.0 is a big patch because I do believe a lot of people will say they have a new star system, I'm going to go check it out. And that star system is going to be the hook, the bait. And then if the game's fun or works, that will keep those people in. But they have to have that real, otherwise the bait's pointless.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sorry. What was the question? Because right in the middle of us talk after my last comment, my Discord logged out and shut down. I don't know what happened. I had to update my voice and video setting. It was something. But anyway.
The
what is
question.
theme?
Yeah, the question was basically like if they were gonna have a 10 patches of 4.0 or 4.x, what would you want to see them particularly focusing on?
Certainly, whatever the flight model needs to do. I don't know. It seems like the flight model is always up for debate for people. I would really love, and I've made this challenge directly to CIG on actually one of the last times I was on Paul's show, Captain's Table. I made this big point about making a big challenge to them to finally make something in this game for women, and whether it's subscriber flare but like focus on women for at least one item. And so I would really like to, and I know that's so silly to some people, but I think there's something to be said about the low amount of women that are in this community that are steadily growing since implementation, thank you, of the female model in 3.5, which was like almost 3 or 4 years ago. And I think there's been a steadily growing group of women. Like, you know, the women in the community have been growing. It used to be so low, and now I feel like I run into a woman in the game pretty frequently.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important, whether people think that's important or not. If they get upset about it on comments or whatever, that's more of a you problem than it's a me problem. Sorry.
No,
You're
they've
just saying
definitely
what's
been
important to you, right? Like,
yeah.
what the heck?
But they've
Who
been
cares what?
pretty slow on that stuff in the past. I remember with
Yeah, it's a
the female
slow.
model,
I
there was a
remember
lot of delays.
when I started playing, when I started streaming Star Citizen, especially, I felt like I was one of the only women in the category for like a good 6 to 9 month period. A little while after start. I mean, there were other but you know, on a consistent level, and really, like, the way I look at it is my little looking glass is seeing the amount of women in the community becoming or women becoming content creators in this community, to me is a sign that it's starting to uptick more, because I think when I started playing, less than 5% of the backers were women. I could be wrong. This is just kind of based on numbers
I
I've been
mean, it
given
wouldn't
by
surprise me.
people. But I think we're probably almost at a 10% now. We might just be close to being 10% of the community. And again, I know it's silly to some people, but it really matters to some people to, like, including myself, to like have options for to appeal to us as a gender, and to draw us in, because we're safer in numbers.
I
And
mean, go ahead.
oh, go ahead. No, I want to hear.
I was gonna say, I mean, at the end of the day, even for people who might think it's a silly idea, the more people who are playing this game, the better. And
Yeah.
spoiler alert: women make up a pretty large amount of the world population.
47%. Well, they make up, yeah, at least 50% of the world population, but women now make up 47% of the gaming market. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's a lot of mobile games.
No, that's complete
No.
BS.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
When I
yeah.
was at Gamescom, I think it might be a little bit more of an American thing where less women are in those communities. But when I was in Gamescom in Germany, it was literally 50-50 girls and
Yeah.
guys at that event. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I think
Yeah,
just
like you
America
look
might
at
be a little
Europe
bit
and
behind on that.
Asia, like, my
Yeah.
gosh, it's
Also,
really
MMO.
crazy how much it's split up.
Yeah.
MMOs are the biggest market for women in the gaming industry. Like,
Yeah.
it is almost 50-50 for MMOs. And a lot of that has to do with things that men and women want, which is customization. It's
Yeah.
social media. An MMO is just social media with a video game attached to it. Is all it is.
Yeah.
Because you want to make who you are, display who you are. You want to have some sort of character about you. You want to make yourself unique and what makes you cool. Fashion is always the end game with MMOs. And CIG, I will say CIG has been very hesitant to do anything like that, especially with, female character models and stuff
Well,
like
and
that.
it's because and I'm sorry, and I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say this to the people watching, but the community can get then the gaming community overall can get so toxic to women. I mean, I've been seeing all these videos of men going into COD servers and like having voice modulators as women. Now, I'll say, in this community, I've rarely felt creeped out, and I think the ones that try to creep me out learn real fast that I am the one. I'm gonna creep you, okay? Mm-mm. And
There is more than one time I've seen a short pop up on TikTok or YouTube of Buster the Destroyer hitting on random content creators.
Yeah,
with one-liners.
it's Buster's revenge.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make there is I would like to really see a bigger effort from CIG overall to not only I think they do a pretty good job of making women in the community feel safe and welcome, but I think too, if we're talking about marketing too, like the game's always been marketed a certain way, and I think to specifically make marketing to target women is going to be crucial to this community's development, because once we balance those scales more, I think we're going to get better behavior, because first of all, women don't, like, a lot of us are like, we're not listening to you, and we're the kind of people who absolutely will report as soon as we see something that's bad. So I think getting the scales tipped more for women, I think it's going to be healthier for the community. And I guess, like, as far as like what else after 4.0, I just want to see like, honestly, I want to see space lightning. I just want lightning in space. And I
Space
want
show you.
lightning?
cool yeah, I want like cool like weather, like space weather. That's actually
They
makes, because you know how we have weather on the planets and the moons. I would love for there to be like weather conditions in like nebulas or whatever, where it's dangerous to pass through that nebula, but you know, if you pass through that, that cuts your journey down like so much more. You just take the risk of going through it, like it's Star Trek. Like, how many freaking episodes of Star
I was
Trek
waiting
are like,
for it.
we
I
went
was
to go
waiting for
hide
it.
from that guy chasing us, and we all went through this anomaly that like made us all toads, and now we have to operate the ship as toads.
Well,
Like,
I,
whatever.
I I hope to see Space Lightning on their 4.x roadmap at some point. But
We need a card.
yeah. I
More
mean,
space
they've shown it before.
interestingness.
They've definitely shown it before. I think one of the things I've noticed with Pyro is like they're really trying to go hard with the whole adding atmosphere to space thing, which is a weird thing to say.
Mhm.
We're just gonna go with that
I think it's
terminology.
going to be. I think the cloak and daggers of space can be so fun, and having little things to jump into to hide yourself from pirates or to hide yourself so that you can pirate somebody. I think making more obstacles and challenges in the space of space is going to be really cool. And that's something I hope is really coming forward in Pyro.
Yeah, that kind of rolls into what I want to see. 4.x overall, I think I'm in agreement with SaltEMike and yourself, AstroPub, and that I hope that they just pursue a almost you want to call it a vertical slice. That term is kind of cursed at this point, but like I just want to see a solid idea. I think I saw you say in a video like a year ago or something, SaltEMike, is like you just didn't really have a good grasp of what they wanted Star Citizen to end up being. And I think 4.x should be that answer.
Yeah, and then to jump on with what Buster is saying is just adding more inclusivity at that point as well, right? Because yeah, I would have been the first person to say years ago that like nothing matters about what the game looks like or our characters or anything like that. I would have argued that that wouldn't have been the time,
Mhm.
but I absolutely would argue around 4.0 when we're the foundations of the game are there, that now it's time to build that inclusivity, and now it's time to focus on it. Like, all right, this is an actual game that people want to play, and we need to make sure everybody can
I mean,
play
it's
it the way they
crucial.
want to. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Back,
crucial
back
because
then,
you
I
get
would have said it's
perspective.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get
It was
perspective
all
you
about the
normally
game
don't.
at that point. It doesn't matter about the people. Like we could have had female characters only, and I wouldn't have cared. You know,
Right.
like it now. But I would be, if it was the other way around, I'd be like, hey, I want to make my character. I want to have the customization, things like that.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think the inclusivity is crucial because I think it brings more perspectives to a testing field for a game, right? Because
Mhm.
I won't say what it was, but there was something I spotted in the game once. This is several patches ago, like a year or two ago. And I immediately brought it to the community team. And it was one of those things where something like some spelling on a specific business looked like it could go the wrong way with memes. And it was because,
Mhm.
and I think because I'm a woman uniquely in this world of the way things are going right now in this world, I was like, whoa, like I saw the words and I instantly went, oh, that looks like something that you don't want in your game. Because
Yeah.
and then when I brought it to the right people, they literally told me that is a great flag, because like clearly it went through several people, and I'll tell y'all after in private, but like it went through a lot of people before some like and got to me before somebody went, yikes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're. I think I remember what you're talking
Yeah,
about. But
yeah. I've showed it to you.
yeah. The other thing though is I think as well with 4.0 is with the concept of adding more inclusivity to the game is uh people have money. CIG wants money to be able to keep this game going and to pay the bills. And you know, women are 50% of the population and a large proportion of the gaming market. If you can get more women into the game, that just means more money for
Yeah.
CIG. It doesn't even hurt the players right now. The amount of people I know who are who identify as male, who play female characters in game and complain about things like you just can't find like clothing or armor options or anything else for women. It's just like,
Honestly, the hair. Remember how long ago they said
Oh, the
the
hair.
hair thing? Yeah, I've been
Oh
waiting.
God.
I
I'm
can't
waiting
find
for
any
Twitch
hair
to
in this
shake those
game that I
beautiful
like.
hair.
Like I have
Well,
to get like I don't have straight hair. There's like these guys literally
No.
all have just straight hair. I'm like,
Well,
please.
I know I don't, I'm not in the community as much, but I do run around the circles of those community, and I know that CIG would be smart to contact people who have non-Western hairstyles. So people who have people have more African hairstyles or Native American sort of style hairstyles. Because those communities will talk if you actually have decent hair that's designed like normal people hair, and they will throw down for you if you actually start representing those sorts of things.
Yeah,
They will
that's
go to
huge.
bat for you
That is
every
huge.
day.
Hair is super
So,
important to people. Like that's
yeah.
a big thing for a lot of people. But that I think, guys, that's gonna wrap up this main portion of the podcast. We're going to take a quick 10-second break, and then we're going to come back for a quick Q&A session. We took some questions during the show. There was a link going up in chat quite a few times. If you saw that, hope you asked the question. If not, I'm going to go ahead and close those questions down soon. So make sure to get a last question in if you want to. But we will be back in about 30 seconds to start that up. So we'll be right back, everybody. All right, and we are back. And I think everybody should be... all the sound should be working and everything.
Oh no.
Test.
Testing.
Don't
I pray
talk
the sound
about
is
it,
working
honey.
and everybody can hear everybody. But either way, we're going to go ahead and get started here with our Q&A session after the Citizen Central. If you didn't get to see it, our podcast is going over the lead up to 3.0 and what was going on with the community and the game and everything, and kind of how that compared to 4.0 and what we might think is going on before and after that. But now we're going to talk about some of the questions that people asked during that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and close up the live questions. We got quite a few here to go over. So we're going to get started, and basically default, we'll just go AstroPub, you go, Buster, you next, and then SaltEMike. We'll switch it up occasionally. I'll let you know when, SaltEMike. And if you have nothing to say, feel free to just, I don't know, smash your camera or abstain, whatever you desire. All right. So first question is, if you could have the devs work around the clock for Jesus, y'all are mean. If you could have the devs work around the clock for one feature or aspect of the game with the knowledge that all other aspects will be neglected for a year, but it would guarantee that that feature would be completed, what would it be?
Real talk, that feature would be them getting more vacation time and having more time off with their families. That's the feature that I care about at that point, because they're human beings who are making this game. But if the answer was, if the question is more like, hey, focus only on this feature, I would honestly say at this point, not even a feature, just more stability. The Vulkan, getting Vulkan out and getting it to a degree where the average person is getting decent frames and you're not seeing like crashes of 30K all the time, or that well, I guess Vulkan does have nothing to do with that, but that stability and improvement would be the stuff I'd want them to focus on. Because while we do need more gameplay and such, that is the number one pet peeve that people have, is like, this game you can't play this game at all these other issues
Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, I'm so tired of falling through spaceships. Like, I'm gonna get on a spaceship someday in my late life, whenever we're finally able to afford that, and I'm gonna be traumatized by Star Citizen. I'm gonna be like, I remember this episode. I don't want any part of it. I've fallen through this floor before.
I've seen this before and I don't like it.
Buster, how about you?
For me, if they focused on one thing to get it out the door, honestly, it would be, it would very similar to Paul's answer, just quality of life stuff, really, just things that falling through things, or just having general stability in certain areas, in most areas. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, I just want the game to function, and I don't like, oh, You know what I would really like them to fix right now, though? I want to be able to push gurneys because the gurneys keep killing me. And that is like my favorite way to play is to go push a gurney around and put a bunch of random crap on it and try to sell it to strangers. So I need my gurneys fixed. That's like my funny answer,
Those
but my
will-
overall answer is just quality of life. Quality of life. Like really think like to really like tackle like certain maybe even UI functions that like to see if they make more sense or less sense. And just the in general, like just how you play the game, as in like again, quality of life. Just all the little things that are annoying. Fix the little things that are annoying.
Okay. Mike, what about you?
So I want to make sure I understood the question correctly because it was like
Yeah.
all over the place. So they can only work on one feature, and it's
Until
whatever
it's
my
done.
favorite feature is,
Yeah, that's the idea.
essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it would have to be the economy.
That's a fair one. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be the that is the foundation of all video games for me.
It's an easy way to get a lot of different features too, like the economy that includes probability volume, supply and demand. How about some virtual AI? Like all in that package.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
exactly.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
obviously support the quality of life decisions from those two above me because that is,
Yeah. If
you know,
if there was nothing being made, like if that was the only thing, then I'd want this game to function.
Yeah, that's
you
fair.
know, if
Yeah.
if we're
There's some
dropping
logic
everything
there.
else, yeah,
That's a very good point. Yeah, so the getting the game playable is probably a pretty popular choice. All right, next question is, do you think they should announce or speak more about their plans for more ground systems like farming and crafting? These are essential for successful MMOs. Essential.
like fishing.
Oh my god, can
They
we
said ground,
fishing?
Paul, not water. Okay?
Hey, you fish from the ground,
That's fair.
tomato,
That is true.
into
unless
the water.
you're on a boat.
That is
Unless
also
you're
true.
on a boat, but
Whoa.
you are on a ground. You are still standing on a floor.
We ain't got
That
no
is
boats
solid.
yet. Okay. Fishing from AstroPub.
Fishing.
You think they should announce fishing?
It's an old joke with MMOs that you don't have an MMO until you have fishing.
Right.
But I
Every MMO
agree.
has fishing.
I was literally yesterday playing Ocarina of Time and realizing that is the origin of my love of fishing minigames.
Yeah.
So,
I would say fishing and cooking are the two I'd say.
oh, cook. Yes, I would say the same thing. I'm going with Paul's answer.
Okay, but the question is, do you think they should announce or speak more about these things?
Yes.
No. 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 I say no because CIG has no idea what they're going to be. Like I'm sure someone wrote a
That's
white
fair.
paper or has it like Chris Roberts jotted the ideas down on a napkin that he put in a folder somewhere. Like I'm sure the ideas are somewhere, but they have no idea how those things are going to work because they don't even know how ground gameplay is going to work like in 3.19.
They know how it's going to work. You're going to put your fishing module on your multi-tool. You're going to shoot a laser at a fish. and you're gonna
Citizen.
reel it in.
You're just gonna
Beam
multi-tool
Citizen.
tractor beam
Yes.
fish out of the water.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. That
I
would
really
be
want them to do that.
amazing, but
I really
also,
want them to
like,
do that.
oh
You know
my
what they
God,
say
that-
about reusing stuff to save work? There it is.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Do you guys remember that, like, what was it, a 12-hour video of the procedural food generation that they put on their YouTube channel?
Yes.
Clearly, they
Yeah,
know how
like
they're
a
going to do
joke.
food, AstroPub.
I think
Wasn't
that
it-
was like that was supposed to be like an April's Fool joke, right, or something.
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
looped even. It was like an hour long or
Yeah,
a
it
20
was
minute
just
long.
looped.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was
It's so funny.
that was a lot. It's a lot of bandwidth to make a April Fool's joke. All right, Mike, did you have anything to say about this stuff?
I don't mind if they talk about those things. It just doesn't make any sense right now. They need to talk. For me, I think one of the biggest wins that they had, and one of the biggest losses, is the roadmap changes from way back. The roadmap watchers comment, stuff like that, was really only talking about the thing that's coming next. And I don't think they should talk about anything other than that.
Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, this question did specifically ask about crafting. I don't know if you guys heard that. If that makes any difference to you in the answer.
Unless it's coming in the next patch, I don't want to hear about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm similar in the sense that a patch, but I would say like if it's planned to come out, I'd like to hear their plans for it because
don't.
I'd like to know. I'd like to at least know what their idea is because every so often CIG will come up with an idea that's really freaking stupid, and
Yeah, they still do it.
And sometimes they still do it, but sometimes they
Yeah.
stop and they actually think about it. Like hacking gameplay, for instance. They said, "Oh yeah, it's gonna be Pac-Man," and everyone's like, "That's stupid. No one wants Pac-Man as your hacking gameplay." And as a result, it seems like it's delayed that release a lot because they realize, "Wow, this is kind of stupid, and we need to do something more than just Pac-Man."
I'm bad at Pac-Man, but I whatever mini game they come up with, I'm sure. Like
I don't know.
Sometimes I wish people would allow them to try and fail and regroup and fix it, because sometimes I feel like some things get shot down before they have a chance to be in the sun. But I get it too.
We gave Hover
Yeah,
Mode a
I
try.
just give up. I
Yeah.
give up on the super far out stuff because I'm at the point where I'm so tired of getting excited for something and then waiting
boom.
forever. Just
I'm with you on that one. I'm with you on that one. I mean more like stuff that's planned in the next year. That's my limit. Is like, oh, is this coming out in 4.1? I don't care because I have no idea when 4.0 is coming out, let alone 4.1. But
Right.
yeah, but then it doesn't come out. Then it doesn't go. That's why they got rid of the roadmap because it doesn't come out. So just forget it. I'm over it.
That's why I'm mostly glad that I don't have to deal with whether or not I should cover or obsess over those next 2 quarters or next 3 quarters. I only have one roadmap or 1 quarter to look at. And even then, that was blind to us for a lot of the last few months. Yep. All right, let's do the next question. I wonder when they will. Is this a question? How do you start a question with "I wonder"? Okay, now this is a salty one.
Some people just want to pontificate at you.
Ooh, I'll take it.
Go.
It's literally, I mean, Paul, you would be most inclined to take this. It's just saying that they should scrub alien languages and talk and fix things, which I don't think the people who are working on alien languages are doing anything that has to do with the game.
I don't think anyone wants Brit. I don't think anyone wants Brit to code for Star Citizen.
Yeah,
you don't
really
understand game development.
Do you really want linguists to be like, well, I guess I'm on the ship team now?
Oh, man.
Like, come on, people, get over this. Like, stop. Star Citizen community, stop telling people like the social media team to well, it'd be nice if you focus on the game. Stop telling the narrative team to stop making like up stories like the little post. Stop telling the linguist working on. Let me have my rant real quick. Stop telling the linguist working on this. Just it'd be nice if they finish this. It is a multi-fact. Does somebody come to your job at the banks? Let's just use banks. Do they say everybody should go in the freaking vault and go count the money right then and there? No, that's one person's job. They control what goes in and comes out of the vault. Maybe 2 people's job. There's a guy who comes, or a couple of guys who come and pick up money that needs to be securely transported. Are you going to ask those guys to get in there and start like giving out your deposits to you? No, those are security. Those are people who focus on security and do a thing. The people counting the money focus on counting the money because they're accountants. The people that are at the drive-thru giving you the freaking money, that's their job, okay? The ATM like does it on its own. Like,
Case in point.
Shut the fuck up. Shut up. They have multiple. No, let me finish. They have multiple jobs.
Don't demonetize me, YouTube.
Going on at the same time.
Please.
Stop telling people to stop doing their jobs just because you're impatient and you're a man-child who can't take 5 minutes.
All right, Buster. Okay. We're not gonna insult our audience.
I'm not insulting the audience. I'm insulting the community who thinks it's a good idea to say these stupid things all the time.
Folks can say these things, but nobody's going to react to them. Well, okay, people will react to them, but it's not going to change anything at the company. You guys, you can say all you want that people need to go and fix the game. It's not their job. Most of the time, it's somebody else's job, and they're probably already working on what you want them to work on. They're just taking a while at it. But anyways.
I could see the argument that CIG is misappropriating funds to hire a linguist to do something. when that money could be used for something else. I could see that
Yes.
argument, but at the same time, CIG is hiring people. It's a situation of por qué no los dos. You know, I'm sure Britt is not just working on Star Citizen languages. I'm sure he's doing what, because he worked with Paramount, with Star Trek. I think he worked on like with Disney with like the Atlantean language or something like that. He did a couple of different like fictional languages that he's worked on. So I'm sure he's working on other jobs because he's a contractor. He's not an employee of CIG.
Yeah.
So you can have that, and you can also hire people to fix the game and to improve the game. And CIG is doing both. If you look at their website, they've got 100+ applications open, or 100+ job postings open. So
Yeah.
It's not an effective use of critique to say something like that. I think it's much more of an effective use of critique to look at what CIG is doing and be like, for instance, the X1. Why did it take 72 weeks to make the X1? And
The X1's weird.
Why did it take so many years to get the X1 out? And on top of that, spit in people's eye by releasing the hover quad and the 400i with a dedicated X1 bin, when it's just even CIG's model is like a month to make that ship on the right now is what they have. So it's like, come on, CIG.
Well, that's why. Yeah, the X1 is a weird one. But I think like the case is like there are ways to direct criticism for different parts of the game, especially for when it comes to people who or problems that you're specifically having with the game. But like, there's no point in bringing up whatever qualms you have with the company to justify, needing to get that problem fixed. We can all talk about how there are actual problems with the game, and that need to be fixed, but they're not being stopped by the linguist team or the narrative team.
Yeah.
They're not even being stopped by like the landing zone team who's still working on the game. They're working on something completely different. All right, the next question is another really good one, totally not controversial at all. Asking about the cheats and hacks that have been coming up about Star Citizen, and let's see, they want to know how important is it, in your
Mike
opinion,
sleeps.
for CIG to take this head on during its development?
I like
I'm
what
not gonna.
SaltEMike said.
I'm not gonna finish.
SaltEMike,
that
we
question.
talked about this for the stream. SaltEMike, go. You know what the answer is here.
No, it's a thing that is, I think, the whole thing was important to bring up, and it is, I think there might be a little bit of a result right now of 318's not out. It's not, people don't have a lot to talk about, and it just comes down to, I think the whole thing was a good thing in the sense of now I might know what cheating looks like, but it will possibly result in a lot of accusations of people cheating when they're not, and you're going to have to take the good with the bad. And yeah, it's just that's really all I have on it. It's out there. People can do what they feel they need to do with it now, and I think it was done for the right reasons for the most part, and that's really all I got on it.
Anybody else want to take this one?
I'll take it. I think that I kind of, we talked about this before. We talked about how it's before the stream. It's just kind of one of those things. We know it exists. It happens. Any personal views on how the video was delivered and all that aside, I even posed a question in my community. Is it better to keep it like on the down low and have like knowledgeable people working on it instead of the whole community like up in a roar about it? And that's my concern is but at the same time, people are going to cheat. That sucks. Don't cheat. Also, don't be one of those people that like acts like, oh, well, if you say that kind of thing, you must be a cheater. Because I literally, the other day, I made a comment on that whole thing. You saw, I was in your thread, Tomato. Like I got accused of being a cheater within 4 minutes of questioning some of the things about that stuff. And I don't know. To me, it's like the griefer thing. Like everybody's a griefer. Now everybody's going to be a cheater. Now everybody's going to be a stream, everybody's already a stream sniper or a griefer. Now it's going to be like a cheater is going to just be added to that rhetoric. I feel like, and there's going to be a lot of uptick of these reports, but maybe like a very small fraction of them actual cheating. Got to finish the
And
game before it really makes sense.
I don't know if that's the case because I don't think any of us are game devs. So what they do with hacking now versus what
Yeah.
they do with it later is up to
Mhm.
them. I mean, Escape from Tarkov's going through it right now, but also Escape from Tarkov's still incredibly popular and people still really enjoy it. So
Yeah, people talk
Is
about like it's gonna break Star Citizen, and I'm like, I have to see it do that. Like, Star Citizen breaks Star Citizen right now. Come on.
is Tarkov technically in early access still, or is it like
yes,
released?
it's in beta.
Okay.
That's why they still wipe every so often.
Yeah.
They're nowhere close to what they actually intend the release to be,
Really?
which is essentially like an MMO. Yeah.
Wow.
I think the
didn't-
plan is like all of those maps to be traversable, like to be one big
Connected.
connected map, so you could go from map to map rather than you have to go
Mhm.
back to the safe house and all that kind of stuff. Or
Yep.
so
Wow. I didn't know that they were gonna go pretty big with that game.
Oh yeah.
Pub, did you have anything that you wanted to add on this?
just to reflect with what Buster said in the sense that I've seen hacking happen before, and that's one of the reasons why easy cheat or whatever the thing they added was added because I know that hackers were using the free fly accounts to test their hacks to see if they worked and then pop them in, and so people were like script killing the entire server randomly at some of the major events. I'm not an expert in hacking. I have no idea how hacking
Implements or
like
works. Yeah.
implements or works. I have some understanding of scripts and some of those other things just from being a gamer and seeing people like those videos online and stuff like that. But just in general, it's I'm just like I don't really know, and I haven't really experienced it myself, so it's hard for me to say anything.
Okay. All right. Next question. Do you see any signs that the ship resource system will be as intricate as the one in Elite? The engineering model there is one I really enjoy for its details and interaction. So this has a prerequisite of knowing Elite Dangerous.
I
Yeah.
am not experienced there, so
Yeah, not applicable. Sorry.
I have a little bit
Okay.
of experience with that. No,
clue us in.
I do. Okay, so the engineering updates work where your actual ship and the money you earn is worthless. Money in Elite is pointless. It doesn't really get you anything but like the hulls of a ship and maybe some weapons. But you can earn a ton of money super easily. The actual thing that makes your ship viable in combat or to do anything is the engineering stuff where you have to go craft
the
these
grind?
items. This is the grind.
Okay.
This is the grind they added after they screwed up the economy and couldn't fix it. So they decided to add a separate economy, which is specifically about the grind and all of those, like finding resources, upgrading those sorts of things. And personally, I did not like the grind in Elite. The grind is real, and I know some people really enjoy grindy MMOs and they like that kind of experience, but it's not like a fun experience kind of grind. It's more of a you have to get this one thing and you have to do these mission chains to get these things at a very specific route. And while it does cause people to pay attention more because they want to get those things, I think it's a instead of it being gameplay, it's a way of dealing with not fun gameplay with no buy-in, if that makes sense. It's a way of trying to increase the buy-in for a game that doesn't naturally give you that buy-in. So I think there are better ways that CIG can do that.
Okay. Well, I don't know Elite Dangerous, so I also can't really respond on that question. But I did appreciate your input. Thank you.
Yeah. As chat's been saying, there's a lot of people in the chat saying it's worth it once you finished it.
Mhm.
But the question becomes, was it worth it while you were doing it?
Yeah, I mean, it's still gameplay. Like, you still want to have
Yeah.
some fun.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is, if you followed the development of any other Chris Roberts game and were aware of his inability to meet deadlines, would you still have backed the development of Star Citizen?
Yes.
No.
I mean,
I would have backed, but
Just not when you did.
not when I did. Yeah, I
Oh,
would have
well-
backed around now probably.
If I was aware of his history, I'm sorry.
Yeah, like his
His-
past games that struggled in ways.
He's notoriously late. He has a hard time hitting dates. He's had that problem since Wing Commander days, but Freelancer is the one that broke the camel's back and got stolen from him because he took too long to get it done.
Yeah,
Um,
sure. I mean, yeah, I probably would have been a bit more, about it. Not really quite. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of. I just can't. I didn't know much about him before. I'd heard about him before I got involved in all of it, but I mean, I didn't really. I don't know. I guess I don't know.
I probably would. Maybe not when I did, but I would. I've blown way more money on stocks, which I think offer me a much less guaranteed return than like a video game. And $45 isn't that much, so I think I probably would have. But I don't know. I guess I think the project changed over time to be less focused on him and more focused on the company as a whole. So I can understand like where you're coming from, Mike, when you say you would back now. I mean, you could back this game and not even know Chris Roberts was involved at this point, besides the Roberts Space Industry stuff. So I think I would have waited as well, probably a little longer. But
Yeah, I think it's important to note that I don't think most backers actually know who Chris Roberts is. I'd venture a guess that probably more than 50% of backers don't know who Chris Roberts is. And I know
I may know who he
of,
is, but not his history, right?
maybe, but like I think I'm sure we're getting a log list in the comments or in the chat that's be like, well, I knew because it's like, yeah, okay, boomer, thank you.
I bet they don't know what Wing Commander is,
Yeah, those sorts of things. But the reality is that people I barely knew Wing Commander because I was super young when Wing Commander came out. Like I don't think I was.
How old are you?
I'm 36, so I didn't
I'm 38
really play.
and I played them.
I played 4, but that came out towards or 3 or 4, one of the two. I think it was 4, but that came out in like the late 90s, and that was around the time
2,
I was really
3,
getting
4,
into. So
and 5.
never
And
played
all
any of
years.
them. I've heard plenty about them, but I was very much, let's see, gosh, that was what, the 90s?
Yeah.
Okay, I was barely playing video games, but what I was playing was like Banjo-Kazooie, like Mario Kart. I was just getting into it. So yeah, I didn't get into
I had to go to my
space.
friend's house to play because I didn't have a computer to play it.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Because just like then, you needed a sick computer to play Wing Commander.
Staple of the series.
Mhm.
Next question is confusing me. Okay. A date for 4.0, I think, and as possible base build. I'm assuming they're asking if they give a date for give a date for 4.0
Tomorrow.
and bless you if you do.
1 hour.
And will it be possible to base build when we get it?
Don't. We're not devs. We don't work there. We don't know.
We don't work there. We don't know.
And
Yeah.
I think the base building will be part of 4.0 at some point, but maybe not when it launches. It's kind of a good topic for the podcast that we were on earlier with like, will 4.0 be like 3.0? I think it'll be a lot more like 3.0 if base building is a part of 4.0 because that's a foundational change.
Yeah.
That's
That would
hugely
definitely, yeah.
different from the way we played the game in 3.0, but I don't know if it'll be there on the day,
Yeah, I highly doubt it. That would be crazy though. That would definitely be a huge surprise.
Yeah.
I will say I don't think CIG's dates are their internal or their estimated dates are accurate. That's what I'll say. I don't anticipate 4.0 coming out this year. I can't give you a hard date because I have no idea, as Mike said.
Yeah.
I can give you a basic guess, but I think it may not make it this year, but I see people like doom pilling themselves, being like, it's going to be 3 years before 4.0 comes out. It's like, no, it's going to be sooner than that. But
They're like
I wouldn't expect it to
3/18
be-
mid 2024. Like, all right.
yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
Probably right, Tomato.
So,
yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't even guess at a 4.0 Evocati this year at this point, but I think if you're thinking 4.0 live this year, then you're either not, you haven't been here very long, or you know something that nobody else does.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I want to hear it. If you do, please, thank you. All right,
Yeah.
next question. If CIG could deliver pyro, but there is a loading screen during the jump point traversal, yes? That's the question. Or wait,
would you be
there's an
mad?
amendment, sorry. Or wait for server meshing to finish the experience and and challenge of a jump point travel. Guys, I need help with these questions. I'm not I can read, but like so basically, should they try and do pyro without jump points? Is what they're asking? Like, would you take it if they could just, I guess, load into pyro another way rather than just flying there through a jump point?
We still going in order, or you want me to?
Oh,
Go ahead, Mike.
anybody who has an answer can go ahead. It's free
Me
form.
personally, I backed the original project, which had loading screens, kind of, right? They had cutscenes to go down to planets and not fully explorable planets.
Mhm.
So I'm not against the idea of a loading screen there. But with that said, if they do that, the game never gets done
Yeah.
the way it is intended to be now. So it's just you what I will say is that I like the question because it is really showing that Star Citizen's quite fun to this person now and to a lot of people, and that they want more of what they have now, and they don't care if it's perfect. And I think that that's a really good sign for the game overall, but I don't think that's what this game needs. This game needs to get to that proof of concept, like, see, we can do it, and show to the gaming community that they can, and then do it. So I say no, I don't want that. So no, yes to your question, I say no. But the original game I backed, it was not what we have now.
So like it would satisfy what you originally backed for, but it's not good enough at this point.
At
They
this
need to
point, it would be a mistake just from
Mhm.
their with everything that's happened since 2.6, essentially.
Okay. How about the rest of you?
I know where this question's coming from, because the last ISC, or one of the last SCLs, or
True.
it was one of the last ISCs, talked. There was it's like exactly at like 4 minutes, or it was 4 or 14 minutes, one of the two, where you hear them saying they want to decouple jump points from server meshing.
Right.
And there's a big community, part of the community was like, does that mean that they're not going to have server meshing with 4.0, or is pyro going to be coming in sooner than 4.0? And while I'm not an expert at this in any way, shape, or form, I will venture to guess that I think people are misunderstanding what was being said, which is they were decoupling a lot of ideas from just server meshing. So they're using the idea of jump points and how they're going to do it. I'm still confused as to what they actually said or meant, but they have not said, and that would be a big deal if they said, yeah, we're going to do pyro before server meshing. Because it's important to remember as well is that video was recorded in January and only came to us in February. So that would have been mentioned in some way, shape, or form in a monthly report or an announcement. Chris, that's a big kind of change. And we didn't see anything about that. So if that's the question, if that's the origin of the question is, I would say that's we don't have enough information yet to prove that that's what's good they're doing.
On that topic, I will point people. I'm gonna plug myself. To Launch Sequence podcast. Yep, get to do that. The Launch Sequence podcast episode that came out earlier today. It is about server meshing, and there are some tidbits of conversation in there that may or may not be related to kind of their plans with the jump points and stuff. But Buster, did you have something you wanted to say on that?
Yeah, I mean, I know the whole thing with Star Citizen these days is supposed to be there's no loading screens. But if there was a loading screen between servers, it wouldn't bother me. You know, I'd just be happy to get there. Um, to have another place to go to, and this it's not Stanton, so I'm not one to complain
Okay.
by any means.
All right. Before we move on to the next question, I just wanted to give a shout out to your boy Morphologist in the chat. Gave us a raid there a little while ago. Thank you so much for coming by,
Aw.
buddy. Hope you had a good stream.
Thanks.
All right. Next question. When players can sell ships and items for okay. When can players sell when can
Don't
players
ask us
sell
when.
ships and items for other players? Yeah, we're not going to know that, unfortunately.
There's not even a mention that I've seen in month reports or progress.
I mean, it
trackers about
should have
stuff like
been
that, so
yesterday, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
does it
what
really
happened.
matter? Does it really matter being like because you also have the question about things like selling a ship that you purchase with real money to another player in game.
Yeah.
That I don't know. I'm sure there's other things like the persistence has to be working because you have to be able to make sure that it works, and there's got to be some sort of there's a lot of factors in that, but I don't know.
That's the crazy part to me is like they're really going to have to sit down and figure out, maybe they've already figured it out, but like they're really going to have to figure out how that's going to all work with real life bot stuff. And I know people have proposed different theories on how that could work, but it'll come down to what they actually decide to do. And that's going to be a big deal. However they do.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question is, do you think 3.18 should go live even though there are some issues still on there?
No.
Okay.
Like we talked about this right before the podcast. 3.18 goes live with a wipe. It's like one of the few opportunities that you get to play Star Citizen like in a like starting first day of an MMO kind of feeling, and you could just play and you can start with like one ship and see how it feels. And what I think about 3.18 that's so special is that the players have so much more choice now of what they can do to make money and have some levels of progression. You have racing now, you have salvage, you can go in different directions than you ever were able to before. Like, why would you want that ruined by the elevators not working in the game? Like, it's just silly.
Yeah, the way to finally like make a living is actually going to have some diverse stories. The last time we had that was last big wipe was I guess last summer, but before that was 3.16, 3.15.
Yeah.
And even back then it just wasn't really as diverse. How about the rest of you?
I agree. I mean, I totally agree. No comment to be added.
I will say part of me wants them just to kick it out the door and fix it later. Just because it's been in development for so long. I get the argument that like, it's you only get one shot at a brand new experience like this, and CIG has puffed themselves up a lot with this experience, saying like this is new experience, all that kind of stuff. So, but I also think that CIG, and you can tell from everyone at CIG, they're done talking about 3.18. They're done doing things with 3.18. They're already worrying about 3.19. So I think when push comes to shove, CIG will get it good enough and release it. And I still think that's going to happen sooner rather than later. They don't want to have to be releasing 3.18 on a run up to 3.19, which they have seemed to dig in their heels. They very rarely dig in their heels with these sorts of things these days, and like with release dates.
And I know
because Tyler's going to be thrown those quotes at his face every single time he opens his mouth. Someone's going to pull that screenshot up and just put it into a tweet, or put it straight at him, being like, "You lied, you lied, you lied, you lied, you lied." Because it doesn't matter if it's a mistake or other things happen. That's all it cares. You open your mouth, you said this is happening, and it's not happening, so you lied.
Yeah. I made the mistake of repeating their 3.19 in May claim. We'll see if that happens, because I mean they are going to put out a patch before Invictus. They have to, but Whether
have
it's
to.
actually 319 or not is obviously always up for debate. So we'll see.
So sad.
I'm-
That's
I'm
the only
hopeful.
time they have to put out a patch. There's
Yeah.
only 2 times they have to put out a patch, and it's
Yep.
never about the game. It's great.
It's always
I love
make
it.
money.
One of my favorite things.
Fantastic.
But what was I going to say? But I have hope. I have been hopefully not overdosing on the hopium with when it comes to this the 318 coming out this month. So
I hope it's in March. Okay. What do you think? And I see this chat already going on in chat. What do you think will be the final business model of CIG when the game goes live, as I don't see the ship purchasing method sustaining?
Okay, so I'm going to take a crack at this. One, Squadron 42 is going to pipeline a lot of new people into the game. So people are going to purchase that game, and then they're going to, in turn, purchase Star Citizen as a result of it. Two, obviously, there's going to be a marketing thing going on for it, so that'll help. Three, they've said in the past that they weren't going to sell ships after release, but I don't know if I believe that anymore. I do think new releases will come, and I do think that the model from that point is customization, hardcore, having a lot of ship paints, having a lot of, little things you can buy and do that will somehow make your gameplay experience more enjoyable. And then the tech that they're creating right now for Star Citizen will be sellable to other companies. And if it's not, they are going to be screwed because they've got to sell that tech to other people. I think it's a next step. It's just, to me, it's a goal. It should be a goal to sell some of this procedural tech to other companies for you. So that's how I think they're going to make money. And then of course, merch. I think merch will have an expansion. I think it has to when the community's that much bigger. Especially, like we're talking about after release, right? So I think merch is going to have to not only get diversified, but it's going to have to be in greater quantity and again, just diversity. But I mean, other than that, I don't know. I mean, maybe sponsorships with other like say Coca-Cola wants to have a soda in the game, maybe something like that, maybe partnerships with other companies that are relevant to the game. I don't want to see a lot of that personally, but I'm just saying it's something that I wouldn't be surprised to see is a little bit of product placement. But who knows?
It'd be cool if they did that, but CIG made sure that all the companies that did do that had to agree to have like a 2900s version of their company made to be advertised, like same colors, same iconography, but like
there would have to be a whole branding, the new branding that would go on for every one of those. Yeah.
I also think, like cosmetics and customization. I mean, the fact that they're giving us habs, they're giving us hangars, they're giving us ships. Like, there's so much opportunity for props and stuff that you can buy or decorate inside of those things. Yeah. Who else?
Go ahead, Astro. You sounded like you were going to say something earlier.
Oh,
Mike,
no,
Mike, are you saving up?
No, it's just...
I'm basically going to say the same thing that Buster said. Everything is the same. I think the only major difference is that CIG needs to walk a fine line and make sure that cosmetics and customization are also available in game without pulling out the credit card. And I'd love to see CIG make it so that people can purchase the ships that they release that were concept or that were like they pre-sold the same day in game as you could buy it buy it with real cash. Because while I know that's like, well, but then people won't buy it. It's like, I think still people would still buy it because they want it, and you would still have to work your way up to purchase that ship. And people, it's the impulse purchase sort of thing. If those people who are going to buy that stuff will buy it. But if people are like, I don't have the money, but it's available in game right now, they'll be hyped about it and promote it more. So, but yeah, the same thing. I think you're still going to see more ship sales and stuff like that. I don't think that's going away. And I think, and every time, I hate to sound cynical, but I've heard this so many times. CIG has to stop selling ships. They have to stop selling ships. And it's like, it's going to hurt. It's going to bite them in the butt. It's going to hurt them. It's like, I've heard that story before and it's never happened. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It could, but At this point, it's just almost like background noise.
I think
They
Yeah,
made
okay.
$100 million last year. What, like,
Yeah. Well, they
How's-
also had the biggest, like, despite all of the problems they've had this January, this last January was the biggest January they've ever had in sales. And
with
it's like
318.
with 318 in the garbage state it was, and
God, that's
317 in
so
the garbage state it was. It's like I don't know how CIG does it. Like, are they just immune to it? Like, I don't know what's
Dude,
going on.
there's such a lack of competition. That's what it is. Like, people keep coming back to Star Citizen. I mean, I'm as confused, honestly, as a lot of other people, but people come back and actually play it every once in a while. I think a lot of people will play it and then put it down, but people are playing it and picking it up. And I think, this is kind of the bummer of like Elite Dangerous and how things have gone for that. But I think like people just kind of want to be in space, and there aren't that many games that let you, and that helps them. This
yeah,
ship's
I
helped
think
too.
it's also the lack of information. Their information is everywhere on this game, but it's not easy to find. Like, there's not one clear, like, this is Star Citizen, this is their funding model. It's not like it would be a 4-hour-long video, so it's not easily digested, right? So a player gets involved in the game. Holy crap! I saw a morphologist video. I backed the game. Swipe the credit card, $45 ship, right? Oh my God, did you see that ship that AstroPub is flying on a stream? Swipe the credit card, buy another ship, and then eventually they're like, whoa, this game's kind of boring. When's it like, you can watch the progression of like newer content creators coming into the game as well. It starts out with YouTube title, "This is the greatest game ever."
Yeah.
This feature is so cool. And then like 4 or 5 weeks in, it's this is what CIG needs to do to fix the game, And it's like, bro,
Oh my
I've seen it
God.
a billion times. and
Such a
it's just-
cycle, right?
yeah, and the thing is that cycle goes from a $45 ship to minimum 100. And if
Mhm.
every one of your people that have bought the game are like going in that direction, it's kind of the thing that they're doing is very clear to me. It's just constant user acquisition and not new user acquisition. And those are the people who are buying into these ships, and not because they can't uh, excite people like myself that have been around for so long. And
Which is-
they can only excite by developing the game, because we know more now. But I was dumb when I started and didn't know, and I bought more than I should have, right? I think a lot of people probably feel that if they knew what they knew now, they wouldn't purchase as much as they did, I would imagine. I think not everyone would feel that way, but I think more people would feel that way. So I don't know. For
Yeah.
me, I'm with Buster on all the like where the model should go, but I also hope that like we have to have something that isn't for sale, man. Like, you
Mhm.
deliver one. I dare you, CIG, to make one ship and only have it available in game. I dare you to make a video game and not a ship selling platform, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just dare you, because that would be sick. That would be so cool
it's
for like the people who play it now.
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That'd
Or
be
even
so
the
cool.
people who get it later,
It's
Exactly.
it's interesting what you said, Salty, about how it's a lot about new player acquisition and not really like
It's all it's about.
making it fun for the people who were there, because like generally that was the problem that they were, at least people were saying they had, was everything was coming from Wales. This is all the same people buying the same stuff over and over again. And I think that
All the Roberts letters say otherwise, right? It's we've gotten this many new players.
Yeah.
We've got, they're always talking about the new.
Mhm.
And that's definitely their marketing initiative. It's so clear, so obvious.
And I wonder if, I mean, it seems like the better the game gets, like you said, development excites people. And the fact that they, at least up until a year ago in April, they were giving people consistent new things to look forward to, it did keep people coming back, at least for the littlest additions. Old grizzled people like yourselves needed a little bit more push, but the people who are coming in and have only been playing for like half a year to a year, they'll come back for each update just to see what's going on. Seems to help them.
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting to rant either. Sorry about that.
It's
the one thing
what
I
we're all
will
about.
say, the one thing I will say is, like, I think that the reality is much less of a churning farm, like new people coming in and then just burning out and then leaving. I think it's much more likely that people get to the point where like the gameplay is like, I've experienced all the things I want to, and they just leave, and then they may come back later, because that's what normal healthy human beings tend to do.
Yeah.
Is find a game that they enjoy, and they're like, I don't enjoy this game anymore, I'm going to play another game. And I think that tends to be more of the case, because like I've been seeing people, and I know this is the case for a lot of people who've been away for years. I'm sure we've all seen it in chats and other things. Like I've played this game 6 years. What's it like now?
Yeah,
So
a lot.
You also have that. You also have a lot of people who are coming back in from the older days, and maybe they're pulling out their credit cards and buying more. I don't know, but I think saying it's just new players coming in, the numbers don't even seem to match that. Because
no, obviously not just, but that's their initiative. They're very focused on new player acquisition.
Yeah, because they want new money.
Yeah, because they need new money. Because I think most of the community has smartened up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like who's buying concept ships right now? That when knowing that a ship is not going to come for literal years, especially the big ones.
I don't know.
Even
for
then,
me,
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, for me as an older backer, all I was gonna add is sometimes the concept ship, I'm like, I know enough to know I want that, and I'm buying it now for better or worse. There is that for I feel like that's the thing for an older backer is I'm like, that's the cheapest I'm gonna get it. Now's the time. So sometimes I feel like we pull the trigger on something like that specifically.
I mean, the cheapest you're gonna get it is in the game.
In the game.
But, yeah,
right.
But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I also think that there's a like personally, I may have not purchased as much money ships as I have now, but that has nothing to do with like, oh no, I'm never going to get these ships, but because I found that I have a hell of a lot more fun with an Aurora and 500 UEC, 5,000 UEC, than being like, I've got a Caterpillar.
Yeah.
Like, cool. I'm enjoying. I enjoy the progression, and when you do that new player experience, I think that's another thing is that new player experience really does suck people in for about 2 or 3 months. Like CIG's got a solid 2 or 3 month progression in there, but then it just
not enough freaking fun missions,
not repeatable, none of those kinds of. We talked about that in the last podcast. So
it always comes back around.
Fun content.
Yeah, that's what we hope 4.0 will bring. Well, 4.x patches, like some legs, not space legs. We have those. All right.
That would be interesting to see somebody do a study, like a streamer or somebody do a study on that, where they like say they stream once or twice a week and they start in the beginning and then they like see how long it takes them before just each week playing 6 or 7 hours, 8 maybe, see how where they get to that point. I would be interested to see that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's hit this last question here and then I'll let you guys go. Will CIG create a mechanism to save your customized character? An example, a unique customization string that you can paste in so you quickly recreate your character's looks.
Okay.
Which of you have been in the office talking to them about this and know for sure if they're going to do it?
I'm going to tell you something. I'm a pro and I know my recipe. I've had the same recipe since there was the ability to have a recipe for a face. It's like, I know it's so good. I don't need one of those dumb files. I don't.
Oh, rip your recipe soon though, maybe, because they're adding a bunch of new faces
adding
and
new
stuff,
ones.
right?
Oh yeah.
But if they keep the old ones, I'll still have my recipe and I'll just have more to add to it. So yeah, it'll change. I'll throw a little more paprika in or something. But but as long as they keep the old faces, that's not an issue for me.
Fair enough.
But when? It's another when question.
Yeah.
No. It was a will question.
Oh, well, that's true.
It will happen. Yeah.
It will happen. Yeah. I think the last hurdle that we know of would probably be the PES.
And adding
being in for
more.
The service. Yeah, obviously.
Because like prioritization of what the other people that could do that need to do, and then if they decide that that's more important or not, right?
Yeah. Those people are probably the same people who are doing database stuff for other stuff as well. So it's like, would you rather important to have? Is it more important to have your character like looks saved now, or is it more important that your loadout doesn't fuck up every 5 minutes?
Yeah,
on
I'd
a
rather
ship or
have
something like
lockers
that?
and like saved
Yeah.
loadouts.
And I guess
Yeah,
I kind of
so-
see the point of that is like is beyond just the individual user. Like think about like somebody who's making machinima. If they have that, then like somebody could shoot scenes with this, like multiple people could shoot scenes with the same character at the same time,
Mhm.
and then they could, they could put it all together. Like so, like if I could see where the need for that arises beyond just the, hey, I'd like my same face each time, but also like the practicality for somebody who's interested in machinima or other things.
Also, I mean, do we even need it now that I think about it? Because we have one character, the game goes live, that would be your character.
It should be, but
So why would
especially
you?
but I think every time the patch happens, so like between 318 and 319,
No, I
you
mean
have
for
to
the
recreate your
future. I mean
character.
like launch.
When it's
launch.
released. Well, if I
yeah.
guess it's more of like if your character dies, like what's this Death of a Spaceman stuff, like they finally have a real permanent death, then maybe some people want to be able to keep the same face, like going to the next
Okay.
generation. That's where I
Sure.
could see that applying. But
Like you have a
to
starting
me,
point and you can maybe change it. a little
yeah,
bit.
to me it would be cool if like it actually just auto did that, because you're the same family and then you had to like, then it requires you to make a slight change or something.
Hmm.
But I could get some people who are like, I just want to be the same every time.
I see chat like making fun of me for saying launch, but like if it's a feature that is planned for launch, that is like, well, you wouldn't need it to save because your character is your character. They may never work on it. That's the reason why I said that.
Yeah. I can do this is the last question. I can do my hot spicy take on
Do it.
launch.
Let's do it.
End us on
Okay.
a spicy note.
CIG is never going to launch this game. You're never going to see a Star Citizen 1.0. You will see, at best, you will see they'll reach a point, they'll get to a beta point, and they'll get to a beta point where they'll just say, we're not going to wipe. Reserve the right to wipe, but we don't want to plan on wiping anymore. And they'll just constantly add content, and it'll basically be soft launched. And the reason why I think of that is because of two things. One, CIG is likely going to face lots of legal litigious stuff if they said it's released and it doesn't have 100 systems in game.
Oh boy.
Because they'd be like, you promised 100 systems, and so that's just a legal nightmare. And that's one. And two, other games have done that. Warframe is an example I pull out all the time. It's still in early access, or at least it was for like years. I think it still is. And Warframe, most people say it's done, but they're still adding new stuff to it. So I don't think CIG will ever officially launch Star Citizen until they get that 100 systems. And we all know that could be, CIG could invent a system that makes it much faster. I don't know.
They could be developing it in space by that point.
Or
yeah, we
Canada.
have no idea.
Canada's
we don't have
working a bunch of it. Yeah.
Montreal will save us.
Montreal.
Let's go.
But it could mean nothing. So that's the realities of it, is that like we could never see 100 systems in the game because the game could long have failed before then. But that's what I think. So
yeah, yep. I think
a
you're
spicy
spot
take.
on with that. I think it's pretty straightforward. Like, I mean, everybody knows that at some point this game is going to go live, and they're just going to keep developing it. It's really just a matter of like, what is the feature set at that point, and what are they going to continue adding afterward?
Yeah, it's the same thing that comes back to with, I think, what all of us said. We want a game that's fun, that's repeatable, that we can enjoy, that we can pop on and play it. When Star Citizen's there, I don't care how long it takes for it to develop, as long as it's fun and I don't crash every 5 minutes.
Please, yes.
And that's not asking much, because there's plenty of games. Sons of the Forest is a good example of that.
So what we want is stability, playability, and really that's the two things.
That's
stability,
it.
playability, and diversity. And by diversity, I mean like in content and in community.
Yeah.
We can do that. That doesn't seem
and the
too
game
bad.
doesn't have to be long. The game doesn't have to be live for those things. It doesn't have to be for 1.0 for those things.
Yep.
Not at all.
Well, all right, folks, that was our Q&A session following our podcast. Like I said, the Citizen Central podcast episode will be up on my second YouTube channel, Space Tomato 2. That link will be dropped in the chat for you if you want to check that out. That's also where you can find my other podcast, which happens weekly. We just had a pretty good talk about server meshing on there. And it's where you can find other like gameplay stuff. But before we go, I would like to give all of these folks a good chance to let you all know where you can find them as well. So let's start with the AstroPub. Give them the hookup.
Twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. YouTube.com/TheAstroPub live for content like the Captain's Table, Office Hours, or go through the news, the kind of look at the game. I also do, gameplay content on there. And then if you like my lore content, it's youtube.com/TheAstroHistorian. I used to do 2 videos a week. I've kind of cut that down to about a video a week on average, a little bit longer. As well as a long-running series, which is the complete history of Star Citizen lore, which is me going chronologically from the very beginning of the lore all the way up to the modern day. So that's going to be released.
Heck of a series.
It's going to be released here shortly. Yeah,
I can't wait. Please release it. You keep telling me it's coming, and I'm waiting. Come on.
It's done. It's completed. The New Soul finished their audio stuff on Saturday, or Sunday. So it's done. It's just a matter of mixing the audio and video together, which is pretty much already done, and then it'll be out in the next 2 weeks. So
wonderful. All right, Buster.
Yeah, so you can find me here on Twitch, twitch.tv/BusterTheDestroyer. You can find me on Twitter as BusterDestroyer, Instagram, BusterDestroyer. But it's either Buster the Destroyer or Buster Destroyer. You'll figure it out pretty quick on all the social media. I'm on TikTok for sure. You'll follow me there if you're into that. One thing I would like to promote, because again, I play Star Citizen and I do all Star Citizen stuff, but whatever. One thing I would like to promote that's kind of off to the side is I do have a thing that I do called the Highballer Show, which is like a short form show. It's going to start moving to YouTube and be a bit longer form, but what it is we essentially make TikToks and cross post them on Instagram and Facebook. And what we do is we talk about a cocktail. We give you the recipe, like we show my coworker John making it, and then we kind of react to it. And I really, really ask that y'all look up the Cocktail channel on different social media platforms and follow it and watch Highballer's videos, because we've been working really hard on those, and it's somewhat work related for me, but it's kind of like the thing I'm partner in here at work. It's the property I'm the partner of. So I would really love for you to support it in that way so that I can make money as a partner eventually. So anyway, Thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks for having me today, Space Tomato. It was really nice to not only talk to you, but to talk to these lovely gentlemen as well today. So
thanks for joining us.
Wonderful day.
Appreciate it. And Mike.
SaltEMike on Twitch and YouTube. I have I guess SaltEMike Reacts channel as well. And Twitter. I don't have a TikTok yet, I guess, and I don't know if I'm gonna make one or not. But yeah, I don't got much going on.
Join us.
Yeah, maybe. I don't have much going on other than waiting for 318. So if you want to wait with me, you could do it in those places.
Waiting streams. Love those. All right. Well, thanks again, all 3 of you, for joining me today. Thank you, everybody who came and watched live, or if you are watching on YouTube, thanks for being here. And if you're on the audio platforms, they're all ad-free. Appreciate you for coming along for the ride. That'll be it for this month. I'll see you all on Citizen Central next month. Have a good one. Bye.